Ever a vote by the Planning Commission shall not be taken. Planning Commission members with a personal or financial interest in any petitioner's request are required to recuse themselves. If a motion to deny a request is made, a reason must be given. Members of the Planning Commission: Leslie Stone, Frank Cook, Reggie Dunn, Reginald Hawkins, James Reed. Members of the Land Use staff: Warren Adams, Tanya Ingram, Robert Smith, Rand Neely. Is there a motion to approve the minutes from the August 22nd, 2024 meeting?
Move to approve.
We have a second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Unanimous.
Thank you. We start with the agenda items, Tanya.
There's no changes to the agenda.
Thank you.
You ready?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, item number 1, Pilgreen and Bostick Engineering, representing the FHM Limited, request preliminary approval of County Downs Edition revised preliminary plat located at the east end of Paddock Lane in a R75S zoning district.
Good afternoon. I'm Chris Bostick with Pilgreen and Bostick Engineering. In 2021, the current County Downs preliminary plat was brought before the Planning Commission. This 2021 overall plat was turned down even though it met all the requirements. My client and their previous developer properly appealed this to the Montgomery County Circuit Court and ultimately the Alabama Supreme Court. As you know, the Supreme Court found that the rejection of the 2021 overall plat was improper and instructed this body to approve the plat. I mention this only to show the time and effort my client has spent working to move forward with the development of his property, and to highlight that the 2021 overall plat is the current approved preliminary plat. It will remain approved unless we replace it now. Stated another way, my client is well within his rights to begin construction and substantial completion with the 2021 overall plat tomorrow. Today, we are here to discuss the revised preliminary County Downs edition, or the 2024 overall plat, that we are proposing to revise the 2021 overall plat. While the two plats are similar, there are several points that we feel everyone would agree benefit those who objected to the 2021 overall plat. First, there are 38 fewer lots than the 244 lots on the 2021 overall plat. Second, the existing detention pond in the east will remain intact with the exception of planned improvements around the outlet berm that will allow for additional capacity, which would address perceived concerns of the County Down, Fox Hollow, and Colonial Heights residents regarding drainage in the surrounding areas. Also, the existing detention pond berm is intended to remain in place with no lots added to the north of it, maintaining close to 500 feet of open space between the pond outlet and Watson Circle residents. Finally, these changes, the reduction in lots, keeping the existing detention pond, and the clear area between the pond and Watson Circle, all add to a large-scale increase in green space. There can still be woods and nature in County Downs, even when all the homes in the subdivision are complete. I understand that there are many here who will object to this plat, and I would guess there are many who would object to any proposed plat. Despite this revised overall plat addresses almost all the concerns expressed in 2021. This plat is undoubtedly more aligned with the residents' stated wishes. However, if we are turned down tonight, then my client will have no choice but to develop the remainder of County Downs per the 2021 overall plat, because we have no other way to move forward. In closing, I ask that we all use the discussion period productively. The decision tonight will be whether we allow the 2021 overall plat to be replaced with the 2024 overall plat, with fewer lots, improved drainage, and more of the natural green space that has been one of the defining features of County Downs. Thank you.
Commissioners, thank you. I'm Royal Dumas. I'm a lawyer at Rush and Stakely. I represent FHM Properties. I think we've gone a long way to get to the beginning. We started in 21. I was here in December. Spoke to the commission that existed today, some of you who are new. I don't think we need to go back down the laborious timeline we have. As of the Supreme Court ruling, and we came here a few months ago and got our preliminary plat approved, we could have begun construction on that. And when I say the beginning, and I'm sure some people from the city are going to talk about that, we're really at the beginning. We've got a preliminary plat. This isn't a final plat proposal. There are a lot of steps that are going to happen, and those are steps we want to take. This 2024 plat that we're proposing, I'd written several pages to talk to you about, but I've received this email today, which is from an email related to the Fox Hollow Neighborhood Association, and they couldn't address my points better, so I'm just going to read their email and tell you what we see. Here's the differences. New investment or new developer, FHM is working as the developer. We have new engineers, and the number of lots have been decreased from 244 to 206. The 244 was one of the major concerns of the individuals who were here 3 years ago. That created more traffic, it created issues of drainage, and in fact, this email goes on to say, here's some talking points that they can bring up with you. Remind them, this is number one, request a complete hydrological study. Remind them of existing flooding issues that we are all very aware of. Well, the Supreme Court dealt with that. If there are flooding issues in other parts of County Downs or Fox Hollows, those need to be addressed. This plan addresses their concerns much better than the 2021 plan. The 2021 plan was adequate, but it creates more green space and allows more volume for retainage. 2, request an independent traffic study, especially regarding the narrow streets in Fox Hollow. And we received, and you have received, an email from a gentleman who lives in Fox Hollow talking about the intersection of Fox Hollow in the Fox Hollow neighborhood. And he says it's too small, it has too big of an angle. It is a current issue. If it's a current issue, the city needs to deal with that. That's not what we're here today about. That's an existing safety issue that the city needs to look at. They need to go to the city council and talk about that. They need to protect their neighborhood if it's an existing issue. Our proposed plan does not affect that. And I know that Mr. Barranco is here today with his lawyer. While this was going on, there's what we call a spike gap between Fox Hollow and County Downs. He owns about 1,000, 1,200 feet of a 1-foot stretch between the two neighborhoods. And Fox Hollow is interrupted by that. That's not here today. That's an issue that gets dealt with down the road. If the city says, we don't want to connect them, you don't have to connect them. But when we were here last time, and I believe it was Mr. Reeves, who discussed in the late 1990s, maybe the 1980s, the plan was for all of these neighborhoods to have interconnectivity, meaning the interconnectivity adds for safety, allowing ambulances to come in quicker, allows for residents to leave in different manners, and he was upset that that had not happened. That was one of the concerns put into the denial. That's a question that you can decide later. Do you want it connected or not? It doesn't really matter to us at this point. It doesn't affect the plans. But it is in the 2021 proposed plat or preliminary approved plat and doesn't change this one. The third goes straight to that they wanted to have their neighborhood self-contained. Again, that's a question for another day. I appreciate your time of allowing us here today, and I'm sure Chris and I can answer any questions you have, and I know that there are a lot of residents who want to talk, and we want to give them time to talk and address the concerns. But I do want to say this. When we looked at changing this plot, we went to the County Downs Homeowners Association and said, hey, this is a better fit and addresses many of your concerns. I'm not going to say it was altruistic, but it addressed concerns, and it does that. And we stand here ready today to build on that 2024 plat. But if we can't, then we will be forced to just have to go, as Chris said, back to the 2021 plat, start building, and address issues before we get to the final plat with the city, who we hope to work with hand in hand, and the residents to the best we can. Appreciate your time.
Chris, a little bit earlier, it was brought to my attention, did you guys ever actually get a traffic study done with this new development or with the old one? Just curious. Because that's what the calls we were getting were the bulk of this week and have carried on through is traffic, coming and going. So I was just curious if y'all have one.
There has not been any traffic.
Thank you.
Commissioner Smith.
Any other questions from the board?
I have one question. Chris, did you get with the other communities, Fox Hollow, County Downs and Colonial Heights? Did you get with them to explain where we are today? Either one of you. It doesn't matter.
We have not. This is essentially the same issue that was going on in 2021. The conversations happened then, and we're improving the overall. I was contacted and asked to give a copy of my overall, but I was not invited to any community meetings or anything like that, and quite frankly, we were surprised that there wasn't a more positive reaction to the reduction in number of lots, the more green area, and just the overall better final result that they'll have for County Downs. It seems the overall no one wanting anything built has outweighed the comparison of the two, which I am happy to go over if you would like to look at it.
No, my question was simply, did you meet with the neighborhoods?
No.
That was simple as that. And the answer is no.
Commissioner Reed,
Yes, sir.
outside of the County Downs Homeowners Association, and Richard can correct me if I'm wrong, I contacted Mr. Dean, and we had several conversations where we provided the plat, and we discussed why we were doing this and what we felt was the improvements on that. As far as the other two associations, the only conversations I've had, a conversation with Mr. Anderson, who does not, I don't believe, represent the association. He represents a private homeowner, Mr. Branco.
Okay.
Any further questions from the Planning Commission?
Do you think that meeting with the other homeowners would be of any help at this point?
Frankly, Commissioner Cook, I don't believe so. If we remember when we were here in 2021, in my recollection, which I've been dealing with this case or this matter for a while, there were the issues of drainage, the interconnectivity, the safety, but to me, what I believe was the one issue that has not changed was the 2021 plat had 75-foot frontage, which the city did not even address on appeal because they understood that within the zoning requirements, we could build 75-foot. And so I think, and maybe not, if not directly addressed to me, tacitly said, since this doesn't address that 75-foot, it probably would not, their opinions wouldn't change.
Okay.
Any questions from the audience? Please come forward. You'll come forward and speak in the microphone, give your name and address, and then we'll...
I do have a question. I hope y'all can...
Name and address, please, sir.
Sorry. Richard Dean, and my address is 612 Keeneland Way in County Downs. I have a question as to why now they're changing everything, and I'm going to address this in a minute when I speak, but I've asked several people, and I can't find out why now, today, what has made them go in and change it, because 3 years ago, they proposed a plat, we had a lot of concerns, they didn't change a thing, and they got their way, ultimately. So now we're coming back with all these things they're trying to make you think are helping us. I don't agree. I'll address that in a minute when it's my turn. But could you please ask them why the changes now? Who has made them do this? I'm just curious.
Royal.
I'll admit to address that, Mr. Smith. And actually, I've answered that question probably 5 times to Mr. D. We are doing this in large part because Mr. Bostick wasn't on the project. And I grew up with 2 engineers, and while engineers on the surface seem very analytical, they're very creative people. Mr. Bostick seemed to have a different vision of how this would work, and that's why we did it. Now, there's no doubt that there's a thought that there is something hidden driving us to do this, and I can tell you 100% it has nothing to do with anyone else. We were not contacted by the city to do anything. In fact, we've had no contact with the city since I was here at the Planning Commission the last time we were on the, well, somewhere on the agenda.
Any further questions from the audience?
I think they might have some comments.
Mr. Chairman, you say questions or
Questions, comments, concerns? If you have any, please come forward with your name and address. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Charlie Anderson. I'm an attorney, and I represent William Baranco, who has been, Mr. Dumas has alluded to earlier. Mr. Baranco is a homeowner in Fox Hollow, but he also owns another parcel of land in Fox Hollow, which is a barrier buffer that runs right across here, about 1,200 plus feet. It's a 1-foot strip of land that was part of the plat reserved from the plat of Fox Hollow Plat number 4, which is the last plat of the Fox Hollow subdivision. And notwithstanding my dear friend's comment that interconnectivity is a big part of planning, at that time, when that plat was accepted by this commission and recorded, it reserved 1 foot as a buffer barrier to any further connectivity. So there is no connectivity. Our objection to either the 21 or the 24, and if the 21 goes in place and construction starts, like Mr. Dumas said, there'll be other places and times and forums to talk about that, because my client does have private property rights that have not yet been, taken from him, and he's asserting those to prevent any encroachment or trespass. And our objection is that the plan that they have submitted assumes a right-of-way connection right in there to Hollybrook, and that is why we object to the proposal. And I thank you very much.
If I may, Mr. Smith, there's no doubt on our new plan, there would be a street that goes from Hollybrook that ends at Mr. Baranco's 1-foot gap, and then Hollybrook starts on the other side. I've assured Mr. Anderson and Mr. Baranco through him that we have no plans to build through that. In fact, that's a city issue, and that's not a commission issue. That's a city council issue as far as condemnation, and we can deal with that when we get there, but there's no intent to trespass. I would say it is this commission in its prior incarnations dating back many decades has wanted that interconnectivity, and it's pretty obvious that that is true. If you look at the map, and I don't have a pointer like Mr. Anderson, but if you see Hollybrook coming down to where the proposed build-out is, then go down to your left, you will see Hollybrook Drive continue. And that was because the Planning Commission said, we want Hollybrook to go from there all the way through as we built it out, or as we proposed to build it out. So this has always been a conception of the Planning Commission. Whether that is appropriate at this point, that's a city council issue, we believe.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Are you taking rebuttal now, or the other side speak, or are we still on the?
Yes, sir. The audience is fine to come forth and make comments, questions, whatever you may have.
Okay, so it's okay to say something now?
Yes, sir.
I wanted to give you a little bit of a background and respond to some of what they said. It'd be kind of our presentation.
Just remember that we have a 10-minute clock running, okay?
Okay, I'll try to keep it to 3 or 4 in case somebody else wants to speak. Again, I'm Richard Dean. I live at 612 Keeneland Way. Very briefly, I'm gonna respond briefly to what he said about this 2021 report and the Supreme Court. And what the Supreme Court actually said was that the Planning Commission didn't give good enough reasons on the record to let the developer know what they needed to change. Now, I want to make something else clear. That opinion was a 6-3 opinion. 6 judges said, y'all are wrong, we reverse you. 3 of them said, we're making a mistake. We shouldn't be doing this. We're usurping the Planning Commission and the Circuit Court, and they gave very good reasons. Well, I'm going to talk about a couple of those reasons because they're present today, and this is my first argument. Your own regulations, the City of Montgomery subdivision regulations, require a traffic study when you have 50 units or more in a subdivision. Not a PUD, a subdivision. Way back in 2021, we didn't know it till the day of this hearing, but Mr. White, who represented the developer, who at that time was T Investments. It wasn't FHM, it was T Investments. That deal apparently fell through, so now the Marshall family's here. But Mr. White stood up here and said, I checked with the city and they said we didn't need a traffic study. And then later, Mr. Tyson comes in and gives an affidavit in circuit court to say we don't require a traffic study. Well, your regulations say you do, and Mr. Wesley Cox says you do, and I have talked to him. I'm sorry I didn't know him 3 years ago. I've talked to him. He said, we do require a traffic study. I've told them they got to have a traffic study. I didn't bless or sign off on this as the traffic engineer till we get a traffic study. Now, the reason that's so important is in the Supreme Court opinion and in the Circuit Court, one of your reasons for rejecting this 3 years ago was safety, and it all related to a traffic study. And Mr. Cook, thank you, was the only one who said, I'm voting this down because we don't have a traffic study. And it wasn't in your minutes the following month, but it was in the record. And so the appellate court said, well, we'll look at the whole record, but safety is so generic, it's just hard to pin down a good reason. So we're going to tell the circuit court judge to tell the planning commission to approve this. Well, now, today, you have to have a traffic study, and I'd ask you to please let Mr. Cox explain that. The traffic study is what would expose all of this. Mr. Baird's comment about the intersection between Fox Hollow and Hollybrook, you know, they want to make light of it and say, well, that's a defect or a problem. The city needs to take care of that. Well, it's not as bad a defect if you don't have 206 more houses going through there, okay? So let me make that comment. Secondly, Mr. Anderson said this very well about Mr. Branco's property, but something I don't think he mentioned, and I'm a little hard of hearing, and the acoustics aren't that great, so he may have said this, but both your regulations and the state law, section 11-52-32, and I say that in case this gets before the court again, require all adjoining landowners to be given notice anytime something like this happens. In the Planning Commission file, there's certified mail. It's got to be certified or registered mail. I know Mr. Branco didn't get any notice because I asked him. So they're going over his property. This plat they're proposing goes over his property. The last plat went over Alpha's property and now Mr. Branco's. So no notice was given, so that right there is a defect. Then, thirdly, if I may, I'm losing my notes here. I want to caution you like I did 3 years ago. If you don't do anything tonight, 30 days passes, this plat's approved. The state law and the appellate court cases say that. If you vote it down, you've got to give your reasons on the record, and I'm going to ask you tonight to be a little more detailed than 3 years ago, and you'll be upheld. I believe you'll be upheld because the traffic study is in black and white right here. You got to have it. Now you got a traffic engineer that's saying you got to have it. So if you vote this down, please let that be a reason. Plus, they didn't give adequate notice to a landowner whose property they're trespassing. That's the bottom line. And you know, I've heard several things. Let me comment about Mr. Dumas and I. We get along great. We're professionals. We know each other. But in all fairness, he started about a month ago texting and emailing me and asking me to meet with the residents. And I followed up 4, 5, 6 times. We've never had a meeting, and we wanted to meet. And they keep saying they're curing our concerns. They're not curing the concerns. If they really curing them, they'd have cured them 3 years ago. We all met. We came down here in 2021, and y'all made them put this off. They didn't want to put it off a month. They put it off a month, met with us. We had all these concerns, not just the lot sizes, a lot of concerns. They didn't address a single one of them. If they're so concerned about our concerns, they should have done it 3 years ago. There's something behind this driving them to do it. I don't know if it's the flooding or the engineers or who, but something is out there that I can't believe they're really concerned about us and still haven't met with us before today. So, long story short, you got drainage, which is a huge issue. I think that's apparent now because the pond's being redone. So that was the problem in 21. Safety and traffic and the roads. And now you're going over somebody's land that I didn't even know about back then, but that's even a further problem. So I'm going to ask when we all get finished and listen to everybody, I'd like somebody to make an affirmative motion to vote it down and a second, and then you got to give your reasons on the record, and the 2 or 3, clearly the traffic study, clearly the not giving a resident notice whose land you're encroaching over, and the drainage. Thank you very much. I would invite somebody to ask Mr. Cox about this traffic study, because this is going to be a little different testimony this time than it was last time. Thank you very much. I'll answer any questions y'all have. Anybody, I don't mean the wrong way. Anybody got any questions of me?
No, sir. Mr. Davis?
Thank you.
Just very quickly, a couple of things. One, I truly resent someone saying we're making light of anything. We're not. We're here to try to provide very quality housing in Montgomery. We're addressing concerns, and there's nothing that we would like that to make the neighbors or current County Downs residents happy. It's just not going to happen. As far as the traffic study, I didn't put an affidavit of someone in the record on the appeal. The city of Montgomery put their own affidavit saying they did not require a traffic study. That was said here, and so that is clear as day. As far as Mr. Barranco, there's no doubt that Mr. Barranco owns that. He's here today with his lawyer, but he did not buy that property until a month after the plat was denied. Alpha owned that property. There was no need to give Mr. Barranco notice. And as far as Mr. Dean we did meet in 2021 with the Homeowners Association, and the question to me was, well, let me get all this information so we can meet and discuss this. The truth is, these are huge concessions we're already making. And my client is not going to make any more concessions. And so I think we would have talked more, but I asked Mr. Dean, are they going to object to it? And he told me they would. And I said, well, we'll go and we'll talk to the commission. You can decide.
Yes.
I'd like to address 2 quick points. First of all, as far as Mr. Barranco not getting notification, Tanya Ingram can attest, we went on the tax map, went all the way around, and every single property owner that touched us, we sent out a letter to. Obviously, with a 1-foot strip, looking at a tax map, we may have missed it, and I apologize that mistake was made, but that was not a homeowner, that was a person that owns a 1-foot strip, so I hardly think that 1-foot strip is enough to hold up an entire subdivision, because it's not a buildable lot and no one can ever do anything with it. But it's not adjacent property as far as that goes. It's not a buildable lot. But yes, if we had known and seen that on the tax map, we absolutely would have sent him one. In addition, it was asked earlier why we're making these changes in almost a suspicious manner. In 2021, Flowers and White prevented their overall. It was a very good overall. It showed a large area for detention. It showed an economical use for the remainder of the space to put in houses. I have the advantage of having the original files from this project when in County Downs 16, that detention pond was installed. And I know, working with Pilgreen, I know the reasoning why that 450-foot buffer between the detention pond and Colonial Heights was put in. And when I sat down with the owner to discuss why I thought these changes were necessary, I told him about the original intent and that I thought we should go back to that. The reason we're here is because I thought this was a better design. And quite frankly, if you had approved it back in 2021 and they had started building, some of the things I saw early on, because I was more familiar with the property's design, they would have eventually gotten there. Some of those lots probably would have disappeared and you would have seen a space for detention. What you would have had two streets with full of houses between the existing detention pond and Colonial Heights, and there wouldn't have been any green space. But, you would have found a similar design in the end, because things would have had to give in order to allow for the detention required by the city of Montgomery. And on top of that, sorry, I lost my place there. The question about the detention pond, the existing detention pond, we do intend to improve. We intend to allow more capacity. We think that in the end, the residents will find that this is not going to impact, and hopefully will improve issues downstream. I guess I have any more questions. If you have any more questions about why the design changed, this was solely my idea before we even turned in the first plat or the overall.
Any further questions from the Planning Commission?
Mr. Chairman, since the traffic engineer has been mentioned several times, could we have him come up and
Sure.
explain?
Yeah, so before he comes, I just want to give this reference to you all as Planning Commission members, because it's really more so at this point, it's on you all more so than the traffic engineer. So in the subdivision regulations, it actually says, for all planned unit developments, subdivisions consisting of more than 50 dwelling units, which this one is 206 proposed right now, and for any subdivision when deemed appropriate by the Planning Commission, a comprehensive traffic analysis which must be approved by the Planning Commission, indicating the probate effect of the proposed subdivision on traffic patterns and capacities of adjacent streets in the immediate area. So basically, you all would have to deem a traffic analysis appropriate for this particular development based on the existing subdivision regulations. And I think we can, I guess you could reasonably estimate that if an additional 206 units were to go in, and you estimate that at least 2 vehicles per household would be at each one of those 206 at build out, then that would definitely probably likely be an increase in traffic. But I just wanted to tell you all that you all would have to deem it appropriate in order for them to do that, and come back and actually present that to you all and to the city for review to assess its impacts.
For my clarification, just a second. For my clarification on that, you're saying that we have to recommend a traffic study and then they bring it back to us after the study is done? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, as well as the traffic engineer to review it.
And that's in all projects over 50 houses?
That is correct. Yes, so it says, again, in the subdivision regulations, for planned unit developments, which are typically large development projects, subdivisions consisting of more than 50 dwelling units. So this one right here definitely tripped the more than 50.
Mr. Dimmons?
Yeah, and we agree fully with that. That's obviously what the statute said. The concern we have, one, is 2021, the city clearly said numerous times on the record that they do not require that, and you have every right to require that if you want. But what I would say is linchpin issue on traffic here is the extension of Fox Hollow from the Fox Hollow neighborhood into County Downs. And their concern, and if I state this wrongly, I'm sure Mr. Anderson can tell me I'm doing it. Their concern is it creates just a straight shot from Atlanta Highway into County Downs that will, they claim, increase traffic in Fox Hollow. And what we're saying is if you approve this plat, there will not be a vehicle or a going through that because Mr. Barranco's property will stop that. There will be no one driving from Fox Hollow to County Downs. That becomes an issue that we would have to address with the city council on whether that property would allow us to connect the two neighborhoods. Basically, that's really not before us today.
Wait a minute, excuse me. One comment from me is that the whole thing today is about reducing houses to 206, correct?
I would
Correct.
believe
Is
that the
that
preliminary
correct?
plat, that's the biggest, I think that's the biggest benefit for everyone there. Yes, that
Is
is.
that
the-
correct?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And the other issue today is the extending the roads, which deal with traffic.
I disagree with that, Commissioner Reed, because
This plat will extend Christian Road, Paddock Lane, Hollybrook Drive, Citation Drive, Flagstaff Drive, Triple Crown Drive, and Keeneland Way. Am I misreading that?
No, Commissioner, but if I may.
You need to talk on the mic, though. You need it on record.
The road system that is on this plat, as far as Fox Hollow, and I'm sorry if anyone lives on the street, Christendom, they are exactly the same as what was on the 2021 plat. Those roads have not changed. So what was approved, not by after the Supreme Court decision, was that same road system, and we would be in the same place today, or whenever we built out on that issue on that road.
Okay.
I just want to comment on what we're talking about right now with these regulations, because I think we're reading part of them and not all of them. I just want to comment while we're on the subject, and this is Roman numeral 3, Roman numeral 3, section A, 3J is what the gentleman just quoted. And if you go back to the beginning of that, it says, and this is under section 3, requirements for plats and supplementary data, requirements. Then 3 says, data required as a basis for the preliminary plat in A above shall include, which is mandatory, the following. And then you drop down to J, which he quoted, and the way I read J, and y'all can read it for yourself, is y'all's regulations, for all planned unit developments, comma, subdivisions consisting of more than 50 dwelling units, comma, and for any subdivision when deemed appropriate by the Planning Commission, a comprehensive traffic analysis must be approved, yada, yada, yada. It's 3 different times when you have to have it. If it's a PUD, which this is not, if it is subdivisions consisting of 50 or more, which this is, or if y'all decide for any other subdivision you need a traffic study, you can require it. But the way I read this, you got to have a traffic study if you've got more than 50 units in the neighborhood you're developing. And secondly, one of you picked up on this, and thank you, I think, Commissioner Reed. We're not just talking about Hollybrook where you're going over some guy's property illegally. We're talking about all the other entrances and exits that connect this 85 acres to the existing County Downs, which goes out partly in Bellhurst through the front and back of Bellhurst, which, there's one red light way down at the end of Bellhurst. I know the neighborhood well. I've been there 50 years. Not County Downs, but Bellhurst and County Downs since 1966. But the long and the short of it is, traffic is going to be a huge problem. And I'm hearing a whole lot of things today I heard way back in '01, which I'm quoting Mr. Dumas. Those are questions for another day, and down the road we'll address that. That's what they said about the drainage in 2021. They said the same thing about traffic. We're going to address that later. I think the time to do it is now before the preliminary plat gets approved. And lastly, this is not they may call it a modification or a tweaking of the plat that's approved, And by the way, if they want to develop the old one, go ahead and do it. Don't come here for a new plat. But this is a new plat that y'all are asked to approve, and the regulations hadn't been followed. So that's my story. I'm sticking to it. Thank you.
All right, we're going to take two more, and then we're
My
going.
name is Tom Bartels. I'm president of the Fox Hollow Neighborhood Association, and the traffic problem needs to be put into perspective. There are 14 properties from the end of Hollybrook until it intersects with Fox Hollow. 14. If we open up that access, we are putting 200, 300, 400 more properties and drivers through our neighborhood. That's not just adding 1,000 cars a day on Atlanta Highway. This is catastrophic. This really needs to be looked at. It hasn't been looked at before, and it needs to be looked at now.
All right.
Brother Chair, cost. What's the cost? Brother Chair, I think we should delay it due to a traffic study.
Does that, Mr. Bostick, Mr. Dumas, would y'all like to push this to next month and provide a traffic study? I mean, that seems to be what our hang-up is here. I'm just asking before we keep kicking it.
And I'm sorry but let me answer the question. And I think I have to answer it this way. And I started with, we've taken a long time to get to the beginning.
Correct.
And I think we presented a preliminary plat that accommodates so much of the concerns of the residents. We would consider coming back and providing a traffic study, but I would think most likely, from talking to my client, we would just abandon it and start building the 2021 plat.
Thank you.
Chair, for clarification, should that traffic study include both situations, one with Hollybrook Drive connected and one with Hollybrook Drive not connected? Because I think that would be significant as to whether that road was ever going to be connected or not.
I apologize. I was swayed by the Irish or Scottish accent and didn't catch it at first.
Yeah.
If you could repeat it.
My question was, should the traffic study take account of both possibilities, one with Hollybrook connected and one with Hollybrook not connected, because that's going to have a significant impact on how the traffic flows through the...
I think that's a question for Robert.
Well,
yeah, so I would respond to that and say that any traffic analysis that's done, the traffic engineer or traffic modeler would probably run several scenarios. So that would be the answer to that question.
I have one more question, Robert. One more question. The preliminary, plat in 21 was approved. All right. Now, if we recommend a traffic study, is it for this revised preliminary plan, or would it revert back to the one that was approved in 21, that the court made us approve in 21?
I believe it would be for the one that they have on the table right now.
Only?
Correct.
Yes, because unfortunately or unfortunately, however you look at it, I was not in charge of this area in 2021, so I don't know. I mean, you all just didn't deem it appropriate at that time, and it's up to you all to deem it appropriate. So it is what it is, but it's a new thing now.
And I think Mr. Dean addressed that, and the Supreme Court is very clear on that, is that when the reason given in the minutes, on the record, whatever the Supreme Court considered to be the record, which may be a debate, they said that this commission didn't say you got to do a traffic study. And the fact that there was a traffic study and that the city said they didn't require a traffic study means that you cannot come back and then require a traffic study on the 2021, because after 30 days, it was automatically granted.
I just have a quick question. My name is Debbie Fulton, and I live in Fox Hollow at 149 Fox Hollow Road. First of all, how much are these houses
Pull the
going to
microphone
cost?
down.
Ma'am, can you pull that microphone down?
I'm sorry.
We're not hearing you very well.
Okay. I said, first of all, I want to know how much the houses are going to cost, because that's going to affect our property value. Also, how long is the construction going to take? Because we'll have to deal with all the construction traffic and so forth. And third, there is a neighborhood here in Montgomery, Arrowhead, that has gates that are in between the subdivisions, that all of the fire and police, everybody has the code that can get in. Would something like that help?
I think I can somewhat address question one, and Mr. Bostick can answer number two, and I would leave it to the city council to answer number three, even though I might put my input. The first is, I don't know that we know how much they will cost, but I would say this, and I think that that gets at the core of what this issue is about. What I said is that we've had 100-foot frontage, and now we're over 75 frontage. And while we're not talking about it, that's one of the bigger issues. That's a question Mr. Dean asked me, is that County Downs doesn't want cheaper houses going in. Alabama Supreme Court has been clear time and time again that whether you decrease property values cannot be a factor. And I appreciate that the people in County Downs want County Downs to be the premier neighborhood that it is. My client wants it to be the premier neighborhood it is, and they're doing what they can to make that. I know that they don't believe that, but obviously if they're smaller houses, they cost less per square foot, as Mr. Smith can say.
As far as the question about how long would construction last, the first plat, which is the next item on the agenda if this passes, consists of 44 lots. There are 206 total. I would assume every year to a year and a half we would be submitting a new plat, so we're probably talking, 6 to 10 years is probably a reasonable estimate of how long it would take.
One other question. This is my final thing. Mr. Dean.
We got to wrap it up.
Mr. Dean, could you come up to the mic? The eventual question is going to be this. This is what it's going to boil down to. If we require a traffic study for this new plan, then they're going to revert back to the 21 plan. So the question comes to you and your, the people you represent is, do you want this plan or do you want the 21 plan? That's what the question is going to eventually come down to. Do you understand what I'm asking?
I do.
Okay.
And I don't have an answer because I haven't surveyed the group. You got to remember.
I understand. No, I understand that.
While I am an attorney, I'm a homeowner and I live in the neighborhood, and I'm actually up here as a resident of the neighborhood. I'm just the spokesman, I guess, for today, partly. But I want to add something that I don't think anybody's touched on. Mr. Bostick was
but how do we address that?
Well, and I don't know. To be honest with you, I need to know a little more behind the effects of the new plan versus the old plan, or the new plat versus the old plat. I really hadn't studied it for the differences. I've been more concerned about, first thing I asked Mr. Dumas, look, you won 3 years ago, or recently. You won this year. You got your plat approved. Why are we doing all this all over? If you got a plat you want to build, what are we going down here again for? Nobody has been able to really explain.
Well, he's saying that they're going to reduce it from 244 to 206. That's what he said. This plan is about 206. Now, if we require a plan, they've already said that they're going to go ahead with the 21 plan, which is going to be 244 houses. And so the question is, do you want the 206 in this plan, or do you want the 244 in the 21 plan? That is going to be the question for tonight.
Well, let me answer it a different way. I don't know your answer. I'm not trying to avoid the question because I can't speak for a neighborhood that I hadn't even talked to them about it.
Right.
But my understanding is through a whole lot of grapevine and innuendo and rumors, and none of that's valid, I don't think they could build the first plat because that drainage wasn't going to work. I don't know if it's the architect or engineer told them that. I don't know if somebody at the city told them that, but the retention pond or detention pond, whatever you call it, wasn't sufficient, wasn't big enough. It was going to be a lot of problem. You already got flooding in Watson Circle. That was a big issue in the last discussion 3 years ago. So I don't think what they've got right now approved will work. Engineeringly, hydraulically, water-wise, that pond is it's right there. It's right there on that map. That's the pond that got approved. And it's so huge and so much wide, right in the middle of those 202 and 241 lots right there, right in the middle of the screen. That is the retention pond that got approved 3 years ago when everybody told us, we'll get the water study later, we'll do the hydraulics later, we'll do the traffic study later, and I don't think that plan can be built safely without flooding existing Watson homes, because right now there's flooding on Watson homes. That was a big discussion 3 years ago. So I don't really think they can do what they got approved. That's my opinion. Now, I don't have any good basis for that, but that's my opinion. So if you ask me which do we want, I would say let's go with that, because we lost and we fought 3 battles. We won here, we won in circuit court, and we lost in the Supreme Court. Just barely, but we lost. So let them develop it. Let's just scrap this plan that's on the book and let them do it if they can do it safely and legally. I don't think they can, but I don't know that. Then secondly, Mr. Bostick has told me 3 or 4 weeks ago, and Mr. Wesley Cox has told me they're in the process of getting a traffic study. Both of them have told me they're using a guy in Birmingham who's a cream of the crop traffic engineer or traffic study guy. And nobody's mentioned to y'all we're going to do that, and we're doing that anyway, because that would delay this. They don't want to delay it. But again, if they don't agree, they got to agree on the record to delay it. If they don't agree to delay it, then you got to vote tonight and give your reasons on the record, or it gets approved by law. If you do nothing, inaction means it gets approved. If you're not sure, you table it, it gets approved. The state statute says if you don't take action tonight and put your reasons on the record, it gets approved unless they agree to continue. And if you remember 3 years ago, they didn't want to continue it then. We had 2 days worth of notice, and y'all are the ones that said to them, don't you owe it to these folks to talk to them? They said, yeah, I guess we do. So they agreed to put it off a month. That's what happened 3 years ago. I don't think Mr. Dumas was at the first meeting, but he came to the second meeting. But my whole point, I was at the first meeting as a homeowner. So my whole point is, to answer your question with what limited knowledge I've got, and this is Richard Dean's opinion, not my neighborhood. And by the way, there's 5 neighborhoods here: Bellhurst, County Downs, Fox Hollow, Watson Circle, and Carroll Villa. You know, I'm kind of here for everybody. I would say let's go with this, because they beat us over the head and they won in the appellate courts. So they got an opinion, which I've got right here. They got an opinion from the court that said, Montgomery Planning Commission, you got to approve this. So let's just let them live with what they won 3 years ago. That would be my opinion. Did I answer your question? Not really. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I get the gist of what
you're saying.
I get the gist.
Thank you.
All right, this is going to be it from the audience, and then we're going to have to figure out if we're taking a vote tonight or there's going to be a traffic study. Okay?
I'm Yolanda Watkins Bailey, and I live at 336 Citation Drive. It's one of the streets that will be opened up. It's a dead-end street. My concern is that rather than saying you all are going to go to the old plan if they don't approve tonight, why not come to the table and talk to the homeowners associations and address their concerns, answer their questions? That would be fair. And as the president used to be president of County Downs, no one contacted us about this. We found out about this when the signs started popping up about this new plat and everything. I'm all for development and progress. You can do whatever you want with your land, but come correctly about doing it. And that's coming to the neighborhood and addressing some concerns. Of course, this is our biggest value that we have is our homes in that neighborhood. And we don't want anything to pop up. So I'm just imploring upon these 2 gentlemen and the commission, let's hold off and stop making idle threats. Let's come to the table and be grown people and talk about it so we can air out all our differences or address the concerns. There are only 2 ways into County Downs and out of County Downs. That's County Down roads and through Bellhurst. So if we add 1,000 cars to this neighborhood, are they going to build another street to get out of County Downs, or what's going to happen? Those are my concerns, and I think we could come together and solve all of this if we can just put this aside for what is a month or whatever it may be, what is a couple of weeks. Come together. I can get all the neighborhoods together. We can meet somewhere and address everything we need to talk about. That's all I'm asking from you 2 and from the commission. Thank you.
All right.
And if I may add, first of all, this is the former president of...
What was your name, sir?
Oh, I'm sorry. My name is Dwight Bonham. I'm the vice president of the County Downs Homeowners Association. And this is Ms. Yolanda Davis. She's the former president of the County Downs Association.
Can you speak in the microphone?
Speak into the mic,
Speak in
please.
the microphone.
Okay. My family and I moved here from Florida in 2021. We live on 535 Paddock Lane. So if you look where Paddock Lane is, and I've been in communication with Richard Dean on numerous occasions, Councilman Ed Grimes, and a few others. And as Ms. Bailey mentioned, you need to come to the homeowner association and share your concerns as opposed to coming up with these ideas for the for the purpose of money or whatever the case may be. A traffic study, indeed, whether it's the first plan or plat or the second one, we are talking about increasing a number of cars going in and out of County Downs and whatever roads that you might be thinking of putting in place. And I just think it's fair to come to our meetings and share your concerns and allow the homeowner and homeowner association to ask you questions. And we will be able to go from there.
All right. Mr. Bostick, Mr. Dumas, do you guys want to vote tonight, or are you entertaining pushing this off a month and the possibility of a traffic study? I just want to get us to where we're going.
I think we need finality, Chairman. And I would say I'd be willing to meet with the County Downs Homeowners Association. Our whole purpose of reaching out to Richard Dean weeks prior to this, was to give them the information that they could have. And I asked specifically, are they going to oppose this plat? And they told us they would. And this is the furthest accommodation we can make at this time.
So is that the agreement? We're going to push it to next month till you guys can meet?
No. I will meet with them, but we want to vote today.
Okay, all right. They want to vote?
Mr. Chairman, I think we should require the traffic study. That's me. That's where I'm. I'll make a motion for the traffic study.
Is there a second for the traffic study?
Second.
All those in favor?
So this is a delay?
We're requiring a traffic study is what the consensus was.
Okay.
As per Robert.
Can you raise your hands again?
All those in favor? All those opposed?
So it doesn't pass. It's 4-2.
All right.
Now, where does that leave this?
We're voting.
Need a different motion, yeah.
I'm sorry?
Need a different motion?
To either approve or disapprove
Yes,
this?
sir.
The whole thing. Is there a motion in order?
I make a motion that we approve the present plat that is on the table, which is that we accept this plat right here. Otherwise, we're going back, and I want to make sure people understand that if you go back, you're going to get 400 and something more homes, or 50 more homes, whatever the number is, and we're back to a plat that we disapproved. I was here, I disapproved it 4 years ago, but we lost in the Supreme Court. We have a chance to do a plat now that is better than the one that we had 3 years ago, and it's either accepted. I mean, we lost the Supreme Court, people. I mean, it's not a matter of what we want to do. None of us want to do either one of these, but it's a matter of what we're required to do, either to take the one 3 years ago or take the one now, and there's no sense in putting it off any longer. We can do a traffic study. They've offered to do one, is what I think I heard. Is that what Richard said that we heard? Y'all have offered to do a traffic study, is that correct?
There was discussions of traffic studies, but our proposal here does not include a traffic study. What I would say is, again, on the interconnectivity that would need condemnation from the city council. That's the issue that they could require the traffic study, and we'd have to deal with that. And if they didn't pass it, it would never go through Hollybrook. So at that point, we would do that.
A motion's been made to approve. Is there a second? Tanya?
And I suppose legal could clear this up. If they do not get a motion tonight that they all agree on, this will automatically approve after 30 days, I believe. If it sits here with no supported motion.
That's my understanding, yes. If there's no motion of approval or denial, it will be approved by operation of law within 30 days.
Is there a second?
I'd like to change my vote. I'd like to delay it for a month. I don't think is that appropriate? Will that automatically delay it for a month? If not, they don't have to delay this now. Y'all understand that. They can go ahead and start building tomorrow. They can call our bluff. That's why I was willing to work with them.
Does everybody understand what's going on? Does anybody not understand what's going on? If we vote on it tonight, a motion was made and he didn't get a second, so that's no action. So within 30 days, this would go into effect. If we vote to, yes, I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, go ahead and take it. I think I'm overstepping my bounds.
No.
I don't know if it's too late. My name's Andy Wixon, 173 Fox Hollow Road. I don't know if it's too late to delay it, but I mean, you guys make a good point. It's either we get 244 or 206. I mean, but would you guys be willing? There's no way you could wait a month just to talk. I mean, I think everybody here would love to hear what your plans are. I mean, that way we can make a better decision, you know, and decide how we want to vote. If you come to everybody and just say, hey, this is what we want to do. We want to build a road going through here, you know, address these issues. Just tell us what you want to do. Show us something like that. Show us a plan that you want to do. That way we can kind of come together. And I mean, if we want to, you know, help you guys out with their, you know, meet y'all halfway doing this, then awesome. Or if we want to go with the old way, we'll do that. But I mean, would you guys be willing to just wait a little bit, maybe a month, a few weeks? That way we can meet with everybody and just, you know, exchange information.
Just so everyone can hear, I thought that is what we did in 2021, and we didn't get anywhere. And that's what we thought we did before this meeting. And I don't know, again, I understand we cannot negotiate any further is our position. But I don't know if I can suggest this. I can't table this vote, but Chris and I don't mind sitting here while other items go if residents want to talk about this issue. We think this is a very good plat, but if they want to accept that plat and if they see it as a lesser of an evil, we can table it for a couple of minutes for them to talk. We're more than happy for them to talk at this point because it's been a very good discussion, I think.
I don't have a problem. We've got an agenda still ahead of this. Tanya, do you have an issue with letting them step outside? And then when we get through item number 13, we'll get you guys back in if y'all want to talk for a second. All right.
Just for a vote.
Yes, just for a vote. So if you...
We wouldn't want any more discussion. I think
Sure, yeah, it's back just for a vote. So if y'all like to step out, Tanya, can we move forward with item number 2?
Yes, sir. Pilgreen and Bostick Engineering. Oh, this one has to be delayed.
Right, so we'll do those together. Item number 3.
Number 3, Pilgreen and Bostick Engineering, public hearing for a development plan for a new building to be located at 3031 McGehee Road in a B4 district.
My name is Taylor Manning with Pilgreen and Bostick here for the development plan approval for the said property.
Is there any questions from the Planning Commission? Any questions from the audience? Sure, Mr. Dean.
We're on item 2, am I correct?
No, sir. We've moved to number 3. 1 and 2 will be consecutively voted on after you guys get done in the lobby.
Gotcha. Okay. I just want to make sure. My bad.
Yes, sir. Any questions from the audience? Concerns? A public hearing's been held. Thank you, sir.
Number 4 is Chase Stewart, representing MCC Properties, requesting to rezone 5 parcels located on the south side of Edabrook Lucas from an Ag 1 district to an M1 district.
Good evening. My name is Chase Stewart with MCC Properties. We're looking to rezone 5 parcels on Edabrook Lucas Drive to M1. We requested last month to postpone the vote as some concerns were raised by neighbors that we'd like to address. In the last month since the last meeting, we did facilitate a meeting with those neighbors to try to address those concerns. Ultimately, the response was that they just did not want a warehouse in that space. To recap, when we bought the property, it was littered with abandoned trailers, tractor trailers, other equipment that we cleared up, which was stated in the last meeting that did help with the crime. There was some mention of some drainage issues that over the past month that we have re-cleared the property that had grown up a little bit. The purchasers of the property have been out there. We've looked at it. We pulled drainage maps. We do not see that there's a concern in that area at the time, so we'd like to move forward with the request.
Any questions from the Planning Commission? Any questions or concerns, comments from the audience? Go ahead. Yes, ma'am. Name and address, please, again.
Hi, my name is Stephanie Lauer at 13308 Edabrook Lucas Drive. My property is backing up to these proposed lots. As I said, there is a big wetland back there for drainage, and we were informed at this meeting that this is a 10,000 square foot building that's going to be warehousing stuff for gas stations. And then as the meeting went on, we were told that they were going to be doing manufacturing in there, going to be holding 15 to 20 people. Those lots are only 225 feet deep. If you put a 10,000 square foot warehouse, plus parking and site work in order to bring trucks in, you're putting more watershed, and it's going to flood everything else. And then on top of that, everybody out here in our homeowners association, we don't want it. They didn't come to our homeowners association. We want residential lots, and we want it to stay the way it's platted.
But they did have a meeting with you guys, correct? That
Yes,
was what
sir.
he stated earlier?
Yes, sir, they did.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, Mr. Stewart.
I'd also like to add that it should have been sent to you guys, but we also obtained from another neighbor a letter that kind of disputes some of the things they said. Also,
do you have a copy of that you can share with us?
Y'all have a copy in front of you.
Do we?
It says number 4 on the top.
Sure, thank you.
Tanya, we didn't get it.
Tanya, I don't think we have it in here for
I'm
some
sorry.
reason.
I emailed it to you, but I can pass some copies out.
Sure, we can share.
And also to note, a contour map shows that their property is 10 feet above ours. So any drainage issues, they're higher than our property.
I'd like to speak to the lady that was up here earlier, please. Is it?
Me?
Yes, ma'am, you that was on the microphone.
Up here?
Well, no, just.
In the microphone for record, please.
In the microphone.
Yes, sir.
I just didn't have your name, I'm sorry.
Stephanie Lowry.
Stephanie Lowry, from what he was telling me, from what Mr. Stewart was telling me, the lot was abandoned, was a bunch of trailers on it.
Sir, the lot was never abandoned. It was an older man that owned it, and he had stuff that was storing on there. It's never been abandoned property.
Okay, I understand that. From what he was storing on there, is that an improvement over what he's doing?
It will not be an improvement. No, it will not, because it's going to lessen our property values, and which is going to go against what this is our neighborhood. We don't want factory workers. We don't want trucks on our roads.
Okay.
I mean, it's not supposed to be commercial. I mean, not only that, I mean, you're talking about, I mean, the noise. I mean, this is not supposed to be here.
Okay. I understand where you're coming from, so you would prefer it to just be left abandoned? Or left alone?
Microphone when you speak.
Yeah, and I'd like to also reiterate that across the street you have ETK Logistics, Jack Allison Paint and Body, and then Mills Woodwork across the street. They have also said there's no commercially zoned properties that are on that side of the street. I do have a land use map that does show that there are two of those, one that's directly attached to us that's currently being leased by Susan Rayburn that looks like a junkyard currently.
All right.
So, Robert, what's the city stance on
Oh, yes, sir. So, yes, our comments still have not changed. As it's stated right there, Planning Department objects to the proposed rezoning request. This proposed rezoning request is not fully consistent with the envisioned Montgomery 2040 Comprehensive Plan, future land use map and character types for this location. And we also mentioned that there are single-family residential homes immediately adjacent to this location.
So you would have preferred it just left alone like it was?
Yes, sir.
Just with trailers and junk vehicles and whatever on the property?
I mean, I would not prefer junk vehicles and all of that.
Isn't that what she just said was there?
Yes.
Is that correct?
Excuse me, sir. My name's Alan Lowry. I'm married to Stephanie Lowry. I live right next to it. No, sir, there's nothing on the property now.
I
But
understand
that improvement was by the current ownership, is that not correct?
Sir?
We understand that.
He cleaned the property off. He cleaned the property off.
That's right.
Yes, sir.
But before that, there was all the mess, correct?
It was that 18-wheelers where
Sure.
Tom
That's all.
Cruise stored stuff. That's where he stored all his stuff. He had tractors there. He had all kind of stuff. That's where he stored his stuff on his property.
So that you consider
But it
that
wasn't a
residential,
business.
Robert?
It wasn't a bunch of traffic in and out of there.
Robert, you consider that residential? Is that what you consider residential, Robert?
I'm sorry, sir. Are you talking about what they had on there?
Yes, you consider that residential?
No, not at all. Not at all.
Well, why did you let it sit there for years?
Well, I mean, that would have been something that someone would have had to report to us as a, I mean, it would have been a zoning violation, but.
So you just let it sit for years?
No, we didn't let it sit. We just did not know anything about it. But when we know something about it, we actually go out and investigate it and cite them and tell them to clean up the property and get it into compliance. But
who cleaned the property up?
We did.
We did. We is who?
We as the new property owner. I think that's what he's
MCC
saying.
Properties.
MCC Properties.
Mr. Stewart's group. All right. Is there any? Go ahead, Ms. Brown.
Can I say there was a couple of trailers that were on that property? He just had semi-trailers on the other side. And as a matter of fact, this gentleman here just now cut the property last week after our meeting. So the property's been grown up even with them being here. They haven't done anything to it since they cleared it off.
Is there anything further from the Planning Commission? Any other questions?
My name is JT. I represent the person that's thinking about buying the property. The property, when we first went and looked at it a couple months ago, was cleaned off. It was level. Obviously, it's grown up some. Chase and his crew went out there and cleared it off again today so we could take a look at it. Actually, a few days ago, so we could take a look at it today, especially after the rain. I went out there today, and there is some drainage in the very back of the property. That's there's kind of like a man-made creek in the back of the property right along the fence line. Even after all the heavy rain we had today, it was very light, not a whole lot of water. Flooding is definitely not an issue on that property. We also question the validity of the HOA that they refer to because we've not seen any formal HOA on that property. And also I went out there today and noticed that warehouses just like the one that my client's thinking about constructing, the state-of-the-art warehouse, which I think would improve that property. Similar properties are directly across the street. I mean, you right at the entrance of that property, you've got the big temple, and then you've got two similar properties similar to what we're talking about already out there on that parcel, or across the street from our parcels.
That's not part of our plat.
Thank you. We're going to give y'all just a few more minutes if you want to make a few final points, and then I believe y'all are asking for a vote tonight, correct?
As I stated before, that back of that property is part of wetlands, as we've discussed before.
Yes, ma'am.
And I totally disagree. They keep saying that those properties across the road have nothing to do with us.
Yeah, no problem.
This is our original plat from 1988. I bought this property contingent, just like the rest of our people did, that we had votes and this was going to stay residential property. And that's the way we bought it.
Do you have a copy of the homeowners association that shows that?
Why do we have to have a copy of it? We don't have to have anything filed.
Proof of existence.
Is there a homeowners association in existence?
Yes, the Wares Ferry Homeowners Property Association.
Do we have
It's listed on the plat.
Robert, do we have a copy of that? Does the city have a copy of that?
A copy of what, sir?
Do we have a copy of the homeowners association that they have?
We don't have to have anything filed because this was put together before 2016. This has been together since 1988 when this stuff was sold.
Yes, sir. That's not anything that we keep up with, so we wouldn't have a copy of it. No, sir. Okay. Unless Tanya and Warren, I see them saying no.
No.
Okay, right. So we do not have a copy of it.
Anything further from the audience? All right. Mr. Stewart, would you like a vote tonight?
Yes.
All right. Have further questions? Motion's in order.
Move to approve.
Do we have a second? Do we have a second?
No second, so that's no action, but it will automatically go to City Council for final action.
All right. Thank y'all.
Number 5, Jeffco Engineers representing Ednoa LLC requesting final approval of Memorial Heights Plat 1B on the north side of Simmons Drive and south side of Maryland Drive in a R60 district.
My name's Guthrie Jeffcoat of Jeffcoat Engineers and Surveyors at 928 South Hull Street. And I'm here representing the Memorial Heights Plat 1B for Ednoa LLC. And I have with me Engineer and Manager Horatio Lee. The questions that I might not be able to handle, I'm sure he can. This is best thing that we could present to you today affirmatively is if any of you rode out there, you will see on Maryland Drive 2 most beautiful homes. This is like rebuilding Montgomery. I'm going to just guess $500,000 homes. And this is, he built them. And we look to see on these 18 lots something similar coming forth in the, like I say, being a part of rebuilding of Montgomery. This is in the R60 district, and we expected to exceed in every way the R60 specification. Almost an acre in each lot, nothing but woods now, and it'll be beautiful in a short period of time if you approve this. Questions we'll try to answer.
Any questions from the Planning Commission?
Yeah, I got one, Mr. Lee, and my question is for you. I've been out and I looked at that property a couple of times. And is this property set in a flood zone? And if so, how are we going to direct that water, to move that water out of there, that it won't flood out other people's property?
Horatio Lee, representing NOAA Engineers and General Contractor, representing the owner. Your question was, is the property in a flood zone?
Yes, sir.
Our property, the tail end, the west portion of it, lot 1 and 2 partially is in the flood zone. The remaining property surrounding that is in a flood zone. It's been that way when we bought the property. We bought the property in 2006. One of the issues we have has nothing to do, the water is not draining from our land toward where that is. The problem is the city of Montgomery put in curb and guttering back around 2007, and they were going to drop a pipe off at the beginning of our property, and we protested that, and so they ended up putting a pipe down Maryland, but it stops right about 200 feet from the end of the street, and it just dumps all of that water from the whole neighborhood right in that spot. That's something that the city did, and we're hoping that the city, we asked them at that time, back up, we asked them at that time that they would take that pipe through that Alabama Power easement and over to Simmons and haul those ditches out and get that water over to that large ditch over there. It's about 30 or 40 feet wide. It runs all the way over behind Smiley Court, and they refused to do it. They said they didn't have the money to do it. So, but what we are doing now, we're not increasing the road. The road actually stops where it is now. We're just putting a cul-de-sac there. And as far as Simmons is concerned, we're not adding any pavement or anything like that. We're just going with the natural drainage, and we would hope that the city would work with us to try to take that existing pipe over to Simmons where it's supposed to go and get that water running out. I went over there today, and that large ditch, it had maybe a couple wheelbarrows full of water, and all that rain today. There's a large about 3 to 4 foot pipe that runs under the street. Hardly no drainage is coming, so that's where most of the problem is coming from, not from what we're trying to do. There have been the neighborhood. I didn't know there was any concerns until I was contacted by the neighborhood president, I believe on Tuesday, wanted to know if we were willing to meet with them. And I said, yes, we're willing to meet Tuesday, and we're also willing to meet Wednesday. And he got back with me and said he was not able to get anybody, they didn't want to meet. And so we were going to go on and move forward. So hopefully that answers your question. If you have any other questions, I'll try to answer that. One other thing too, the houses that he talked about, we built 2 houses over there. They're all brick houses. The smallest one is 3,200 square feet. The other one's close to 4,000 square feet. And we're hoping that we can improve the neighborhood. This lot that we have, we could have put roughly 70 lots on that based on the current zoning that we have. We elected to do 18 lots. We wanted large lots, and we wanted to improve the neighborhood. We didn't want to just pile a whole lot of houses over there. We're not just trying to make money. We're trying to improve West Montgomery. I was born and raised in West Montgomery. And so some people were concerned, said it was increasing crime. But before, when we bought that lot, and before we built those other 2 houses, there's drugs, prostitution going on at the end of that street, dead end street. They're dumping, and they're still dumping. And so what we're doing by improving, we feel that certainly it's not going to increase crime because, I mean, it's going to make a better neighborhood. More people are going to be moving into the area. We're hoping to see people from Meta or Amazon and Hyundai to move in this area. The other thing that was concerned about traffic, I mean, it's not even significant traffic. We're talking about adding 18 houses. And there was, I think there was another concern about something, but I can't remember. Maybe somebody in the neighborhood will bring it up, and we'll try to address that.
I wanted to follow up with you on that floodplain.
Yes, sir.
If you look at today's floodplain maps, it's going along a ditch and it's less than 100 feet wide. So it doesn't cover large like a whole lot of something. It's just along a drainage ditch, which will be dealt with in the development.
Well, yeah, I saw that. I mean, I actually walked, and I walked back to where that sewage drain coming out of the ground at back there. So I saw all that back to the Alabama Power right away. I mean, one of my concerns was that your property, all right, and mind you, those are two beautiful houses. But from the street level, and I'm talking about the two houses that you already built, from the street level, and I'm a builder myself, so it looked like you got like a 12-foot elevation that you had to raise up. I mean, is that about 12 feet from street level? If you take a transit and you shoot that property, those houses is up about 12 feet from the street, and so all the water gonna run straight down that street. And my question is, on the other side, because that property is a lot lower, so I know that you're gonna have to build that property up too, correct?
No, sir. The reason those houses, first of all, the houses, the elevation that it is now is based on the land that's behind it. Okay. There's a hill that's coming behind that. Originally, they had a big hill coming, and they dropped the houses down low, which brings water to the back of the house. What we did is took it up high enough so that the water coming off that hill would not back up in the back of the house. So now the water is running down between.
And you pushed the house a little bit further back, is what you're trying to say.
Right, we pushed it back further on the hill.
I got you.
Therefore, we had to put it up like that.
Okay, so that's what makes it look.
But on the other side, right. No, we're planning on using natural drainage. There's no need to raise them up. Now, there may be some grading that you have to do in some areas, but naturally it's going to grade. We're not planning on having to bring in any dirt of significance of anything like that.
Well, on the Simmons Street side, though, and I went around there too, on the Simmons Street side, which looked like it is a lot higher than what your property is. So basically what I'm getting at with, because you're going to put like 8 houses on Maryland and you're going to put another 10 on Simmons, right? I mean, that's what it looked like you got on what we were given. Within the cul-de-sac, you're going to have 8 houses right in there, right?
Okay. Yes, sir. And
then on Simmons, which is the back side of that property, you're going to have 10.
Right.
Right. So basically, Simmons Street seemed to sit up higher than what your property level is. Mm-hmm. So that means all the water flow going to flow back to the houses that you're going to put on Maryland Street.
Well, currently the water that you're talking about already flows this way, but it doesn't go all the way to Maryland. It goes down between our property down to where the easement is over there.
Okay.
And then it goes back over there with that other flat land adjacent to it that's not draining out, which is the reason why we wanted them to put the pipe in. But now, as far as what we do on Simmons, some of that in that Simmons is going to be pushed back some as we have to grade in some of those low areas. So we're wanting the water to come towards Simmons, and there's a ditch on Simmons as well.
Right.
We're wanting that stuff to be hauled out so water can go that way and drain out into that large ditch area.
Well, okay, that answered my question, because I mean that's what I was kind of thinking, that if you did that and get that water to go back down there toward that drain, and then it will go out. So I just wanted to, because I'm quite sure some of the residents going to ask some of those same questions, so I just wanted to get them out there so that they could hear what you had to say.
Any questions from the audience or concerns, comments? Please remember name and address, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Good afternoon. I'm Patrick Moss. I'm president of the Memorial Heights Neighborhood Association. Yes, I did call Mr. Lee to set up a meeting to meet with the residents. He agreed, but when I went back to the residents to advise them that he agreed to meet them, people was at work or gone to other appointments that they had. I don't really think that people is against Mr. Lee building his houses. I think it'd be an asset to the neighborhood. But the main issue is the water. The city came into the neighborhood back in 2008. They put a lot of piping in on the whole neighborhood. They got water flooding everybody. My property, they got water going between two homes, actually going into the property that Mr. Lee is trying to develop, just dumping the water off into the land. So what we mainly want to know is where the water going in. I got a couple of residents that live adjacent to his property. They got a couple of questions that they want to ask. And if he, they can't talk tonight, would he be willing to wait another week or two and talk with them and see? But nobody's really against him developing the land, just a water issue.
Mr. Lee, would you consider pushing this to next month and meeting with the neighborhood association and the concerned parties?
Let me insert something.
Go ahead, Mr. Jeffco.
If y'all give an affirmative tonight, we still got to satisfy these technical departments. The city engineer sitting over here, he knows he's not going to let us do anything that's not according to law. So these technical reviews after you protects against what he's talking about.
I understand that, but they don't. Mr. Lee.
I would like them to come up and see what their questions are first.
Sure.
But like he said, as far as development, right now we're just trying to deal with the platting and the lots.
I understand, but you understand a lot of people
drainage and all
in the audience don't understand, so they're going to want to talk. But come on, ladies and gentlemen.
All right, my name is Samuel Sanders. I'm a resident of Montgomery Heights. I'm at 3343 Ellis Drive, which is on the other side of the neighborhood, but I also own the adjacent property to Mr. Lee's property. And we've already having a water problem at that particular area, which is about 11 acres. We have several family plots down from that. My checkbook pretty familiar with Mr. Jeffco. The problem that we have is not with Mr. Lee. I done dealt with him before. Even when he was building the two houses that he built, we had to work some issues with the property line there so he could get some trees out and different things. So I'm not hard to work with, but we kind of missed the ball, I think, by going past the neighborhood before the planning part of, I didn't know anything about the 18 houses until this issue came up to try to get it plotted. And my main concern is how we gonna address the water issue, which may be more of a city issue than his issue. But once he concentrates his water to get it off the lots that he's working with, it's gonna make my situation worse. You follow what I'm saying? And also, from the other side of Ellis, that water got to come from the other side of the neighborhood to come to that same, I guess, ditch or whatever to drain. And we having slow drainage problem from that side also. So the water problem is my problem more than the building of the neighborhood.
Yes, sir.
All right. Good afternoon. I'm Chris Sanders. I stay at 3361 Ellis Drive. That's my brother. And we got family that stay in the neighborhood. Our main, concern is the water, and we would like to meet with him and just get some understanding about the development. And that's what we're mostly here to ask for, is him to explain to us what's going on, maybe in a neighborhood meeting or whatever.
Yes, ma'am. Name and address, please.
Hello, my name is Tila Sanders. I own a home on 3263 Ellis Drive, as well as two properties behind there. It's about 2 acres or so. And my concern is also the water drainage, making sure that it doesn't flood the properties that are already adjacent to it, as well as I have some additional questions that I would I would appreciate if you would be able to meet with us for a meeting so that we can discuss those things as well.
Thank you.
Isn't this a plat? Why can't we just prove it?
Do you have the aerial map of the property? Y'all had the aerial map loaded?
Yeah, it's
Okay.
It's,
All right. I don't have my pointer right now, but I'm willing to meet with the residents to address that, but some of the concerns they're talking about has a lot to do with the city and not us. As far as some of the property that Mr. Sanders owned and some of these properties they're talking about is further up Ellis, and that water that comes off the hill from Ellis Drive all the way over comes over toward our land and their land. We're not changing any of that. I don't mind meeting with the residents, just like when they did contact me. I was willing to meet that day or any day. Yes, I've worked with Mr. Sanders before as well. He's not, they're not hard to work with. We just, as far as the drainage issue, we're not increasing the drainage toward that area at all, toward their houses at all. So I just think that can be addressed with the city. And what we really need to do as the neighborhood as well as us, we need to be getting together and trying to ask the city to help us with this and do their job and get this water drained into the ditches, because they never should have dropped a pipe on our property in the first place. I mean, that pipe just stops right dead in the middle of our property, and they brought all that water from Crumpton to Bozeman, all the way down Maryland, all of that drainage over there, straight to our property and just dropped it on the property. As well, they didn't do the curb on our side down. They just stopped the curb at that point. And so this is a city issue that I think we should be together, not really an issue as it deals with the plat.
Mr. Jeff Coat, this is a plat, isn't it?
Mr. Smith.
yes, Mr. Cook, it's a plat.
Mr. Smith, Mr. Smith actually met me down there. So I'd like to have your intake on what you observed when we went down there.
Well, I mean, as I said, it would probably be more appropriate based on what I saw, I thought it was a pretty good project. He's already gotten 2 homes built. But again, the final say on drainage and detention ponds will eventually be up to the city engineering department. So before any final sign-off is done, it would have to be reviewed by the city engineering department. And I think Mr. Jeffcoat and Mr. Lee, they know that. So they will review that drainage in great detail. And if there is a water-related issue, they're going to require some improvements to be done by the developer.
Let me get you for the residents. Let me get you to explain to them exactly what's going on, because all Mr. Lee doing now is trying to plat the property, and which means that even if we was to plat that property tonight, he would still have to come back before this commission before he could actually move forward with that project. But explain to them the difference between the plat and what's going on, Rob.
Right. So just like what I said, now this is the final plat, but again, before the final plat, subdivision plat is approved, the internal city departments would have to review it, and if they see any issues based on what you all are saying, I think it all seems to be centered on drainage, the city engineer would actually make the developer address any drainage issues that there are and make them correct those or add those to the overall subdivision plat, and that would have to actually be what's done, and they would have to be satisfied before the final is approved. And I think if Patrick wants to, he can address that.
I would like that.
Hello? Okay. Yes, as I'm looking at, if you're looking at the undeveloped photograph you see up here today, it's basically all green space. So what we're going to require the developer to do is come through and do what we call a pre and post drainage calculation. We're going to look at the difference in the amount of water that's leaving the site today versus what will leave when it's fully developed. The difference in the two, we will make him retain in what's called a detention pond, and then slowly release that water, so that somebody was mentioning he was concerned about water going downhill, downstream from them. And so obviously, as I was looking at just now, looking at this plat, you know, I didn't see any locations for detention at this point, so there could be modifications to what the number of lots, depending on where the detention pond's best, the size of the pond required, and where it best be situated. So that's something we're definitely going to take a look at it before we sign off on the plat. And actually, typically what we do in these situations, we have a third-party engineer that engineering firm that reviews these for us. I don't know if Mr. Guthrie's had any conversation with them at this point, but obviously as you go from a undeveloped parcel of however many acres it was to a developed parcel, you're going to get increased impervious surface with rooftops and driveways and all that sort of stuff. And so that's all taken into account in the calculations and the difference in what we call the pre-development conditions and the post-development. And that's where a pond or some sort of a detention facility is usually required.
And we've got plenty of room because these are large lots. Some of them in the area where he's talking about are over an acre.
I guess my quick question would be, are y'all saying that it can be approved tonight, but
there's still a lot more work?
Finally approved until they deal
Oh,
with the
yes,
water?
sir. That's correct.
This is just pre-approving. This is approving the plat. There will be considerable more work with the city and engineering and everything else. This is just the plat.
And then we had to go and deal with the water situation and come back again? Is that what you're saying?
What I'm saying is we will look in and require the developer to submit to us drainage calculations to affirm to us that he's not going to adversely affect the downstream conditions. And that's why I was saying they will have to present calculations to us showing the pre-development condition and then the calculation showing when it's fully built out. And obviously, like I said, you're going to have more water that is generated or runs off in the full build-out system versus what's there today. And that difference in increased water flow has to be detained in a detention pond and then slowly released.
Okay.
All right. Are there any further questions? Yes, sir.
Hey, to talk with the other residents, he answered the questions that I think they need answers to. So you go ahead on with what you all got to do, and no need for another meeting.
Okay. Thank you, sir. All right. Is there any further questions?
If I could, I just want to
Yes,
affirm with the developer and their engineer that they are going to submit those calculations to us for review and approval.
Absolutely.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Any further questions?
Move to approve the plat.
Motion's in order.
Approve.
Do we have a second? Second. All those in favor?
Unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Number 6, Pine Gate Renewables, requesting final approval of APCO Old Hangle Substation Plat 1, located approximately 4,600 feet north of Alatex Road in M1 District.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Zoe Gobetz. I'm representing Pine Gate Renewables. I'm joined by my colleague Charlene Morton and our counsel Mike Brown. We are here today as we submitted the plat to be conveyed to Alabama Power Company as per their requirements, and we are just here to address any questions that you may have.
I got one question. It's because I got some calls from the people that live over in that community, right? Y'all haven't talked to any of those people whatsoever?
I'm sorry, which community are you referencing?
Well, right over in the Diamond Pines area, Danville. I mean, because when you go down Alatex Road from Old Hangle, how far? And I see you plat on this paper, but how far is that down that road?
So the substation plat that we are looking to convey to Alabama Power is well within, far beyond Alatex Road within the property that we have acquired. So it's very far north off of Alatex Road. The area surrounding the plat there's not really any residential people that are adjacent to that property at all. It is currently, or was formerly, timberland.
One second, ma'am.
To the
1
mic.
second. You good?
Yeah, I kind of know how.
Yes, ma'am. Any questions or concerns?
Mr. Dent, my name is Karen Bollinger. I live in Hope Hall, and obviously we have a large amount of solar that's coming into the area. I actually spoke with one of the residents at the last meeting that we had because he was completely unaware on the southeast corner. So this is just for the, oh gosh, what am I trying to say? This is just for the substation. The land all around it, the larger area that they've purchased, is a solar field. That solar field came through the Planning Commission with a setback of 100 feet next to that residential area down at the bottom that you're talking about. And that includes Longleaf, Lonesome, Pine Drive, and Dan River Road. They didn't even know about it. They heard about it here. They were concerned. We spoke with them. We tried to call Pine Gate several times, did not get a response. That setback should be a minimum of 600 feet, but it came through here at 100 feet. Can you imagine living 100 feet? You walk out your front door, and what you're going to see is 813 acres of solar panels with this substation of 6 acres in the middle. So my question to Pine Gate, one, you mentioned Alabama Power. I spoke with Leslie Snyder from Alabama Power. They have nothing to do with this. There's no contract right now between you and Alabama Power, but they keep representing themselves as a relationship with ABCO. So do you have a signed contract with ABCO?
Microphone, please, ma'am.
They're saying they don't. Leslie Snyder is the vice president of the Southeast Division, and she said there is...
Can you just speak in the mic,
Microphone, please, ma'am.
Leslie Snyder, I called her tonight too, because she's the Southeast vice president for this area, and she said they cannot be involved till after this is built for the hookup. She said that's a legal federal law and that there's no contract between Pine Gate and Alabama Power.
So just to address that, we do have a signed what we call interconnection agreement with Alabama Power. We have several additional contracts because they are the purchasers of the power that we would generate as well. I would also just like to address, this is for a solar site. What we are discussing today is the plat that's being conveyed for the substation itself, the plat for the substation and the access road. And the concerns regarding solar that we are happy to address have been addressed in the special exception permit that was granted through the zoning hearing back in March of 2023, and also within the development plan meetings that we've had the prior 2 months.
If I may, March of 2023, this got approved on an appeal as an exception because we have no ordinances for solar right now. We're working on that. The city's working on that to create solar ordinances. So they got approved as a natural resource exception to appeal. That was before anybody knew what was going on. This is the first one that came through in March of 23. So it was on an appeal. It wasn't that it went through the formal process. And no, nobody knew about it. I can tell you that. Now people know better to pay attention to every single planning commission. The city council was unaware of it. We went to city council last month. There's actually a moratorium that's being discussed at the city council level to stop any new solar development till we can get the new ordinances in place, because their solar field that they're putting in has no safety measures. One of them's the setbacks, one of them, what is the barrier for the people that are living down there? I mean, the list goes on. None of those safety considerations have been put on the books.
Yes, ma'am. I think, as she was trying to say, tonight is just about the substation. We had them here last month, or maybe the month before, discussing the actual solar field and requirements and regulations. Tonight is simply about access to the substation there.
So who's connecting to the substation? Is this simply for yours, or is this going to be for other fields?
This is for Alabama Power to build their substation.
Well, it's not their substation, they connect to it.
I don't think, Chair, none of this is actually relevant to what's in front of you. You're reviewing a substation at the moment. Who's connecting to it or anything really shouldn't be part of your consideration.
Thank you.
He said basically what I was going to say.
Are there any further questions, concerns from the audience or the Planning Commission?
The substation was put forward with the solar field on abatements at the IDP. And I want you guys to understand that it was approved for abatements for the substation and the solar field, and that affects everybody. I mean, it's the chicken and egg. You're putting a substation in for a solar field right around it. So you can't not consider what's happening with the solar field when you approve the substation.
This is for the plat. That's what this application is for, the plat.
This is final approval.
For those that may not be aware,
name and address,
my
please,
name
sir.
is Kim, K-I-M, Klein, C-L-I-N-E. I live at 8360 Mobile Highway in Hopewell. That's on Highway 31. For those that may not be aware of what's going on here, they are putting the plug that will actually bring all of what is known in the industry as dirty solar power through their facility that they are trying to construct with this plot, that will go through transformers and many banks of lithium batteries. I don't know whether they've leveled with y'all on that or not. You might want to ask them about that, because that's very dangerous in itself. But based on this, if they are approved for this, and they put several $1 million, no telling how many millions of dollars into this project, they're going to be demanding pretty much that y'all approve every other solar project that's been stretched all the way from Hyundai Boulevard, all the way through Snowden, all the way down through Hopewell, around to the airport. Ladies and gentlemen, that is 4,600 acres right now that are under contract. 4,600 acres. What you're seeing on those pictures right now might be 100 acres. And if you'll look at that closely, you'll see that little building down there on the bottom. That's probably what they're trying to put in right there. But it's going to be for 4,600 acres of prime farm property. Now, based on that, we're talking about a whole lot of lithium batteries, a whole lot of transformers, and a whole lot of land that's going to be made relatively useless in the future. And what I'm asking you to do is please do not approve this project, because they will then in turn try and force you to make sure that they're going to have this dirty solar power brought all the way around this huge loop to put into their facility to be able to hook it up to Alabama Power when that time comes. I cannot find it in writing anywhere, but I've been told that our governor, Kay Ivey, we all know her as Meemaw, made the statement. She said, "This is Alabama the Beautiful. I don't want to see solar panels from the interstate. Why would we want to live next to them if that's the case? They make noise 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. They are dangerous in that the glass that is now being put on them is so very, very, very thin, because they're hurrying the manufacturing process to turn them out, that it even breaks with very little, it's even been broken with the differences in the heat. So anyway, please think long and hard about this. Please know that there are a lot of people that live out in these communities that are going to be surrounded by these property that's been in families for many, many years, that is going to have the value dropped. And people don't want to live next to these solar farms. And I appreciate your time and hope that you'll give it some thought. Thank you.
Mike Brown, 1819 Fifth Avenue North.
First of all, tonight, we are not here asking for anything to do with solar. This is a simple request for a subdivision of 114 acres to subdivide out a 14-acre parcel to be able to sell that parcel to a third party. It's as simple as that. And any other landowner who owns a large parcel of land, if they're going to sell off a small parcel of land, has to come before this committee and ask for what's called a subdivision process. This is not the subdivision that you've heard about here tonight before, where we are building a subdivision. All we are doing is taking a 14-acre parcel out of a 114-acre parcel, and we're going to sell it to a third party. That's the request before this committee, and I would ask that this committee approve that request. Thank you. Because the plat we submitted meets the subdivision regulations set forth by the City of Montgomery. Thank you.
Thank you.
The remarks on this is the plat is to create a lot for a power substation. So we are talking about a substation. Whether you want to call it, I mean, it's a chicken and egg. You're putting the substation in for the solar fields that are surrounding it. This land has all been bought for the solar around it, and this is the substation for the solar.
Thank you. Is there anything further from the audience or the Planning Commission? Motion's in order.
Move to approve.
Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second.
Who seconded?
Second.
Who?
Reginald.
Oh, I can't hear you. Okay.
All those in favor?
3,
All those opposed?
3, no action. That means in 30 days it'll be approved.
Thank y'all.
Thank you. Number 7, Ray and Gilliland, representing DCB LLC.
Hey, Tanya, can we come back to number 1? I think they are ready.
That's up to the Planning Commission.
I'm sorry.
Everybody else has been waiting.
We're just going to go ahead and keep rolling. So keep the order. We'll come back to them last. Tanya.
Okay. Requesting final approval of DCB Plat 1, located on the southwest corner of Wasden Road and Bill Joseph Parkway in an M3 district.
Hello, everyone. My name is Lydia Abernathy, and I'm with Thomas & Hutton. I'm here representing DCB LLC. We are requesting final approval for a 27-acre lot in a existing industrial district, and I'm just here to answer any questions you may have.
Do you have plans for, can you hear me? Can you hear me? Can you hear me now? Yeah. Do you have plans for that?
So we are still in the very early design stages. So currently we're still working through all of that.
So basically what you're saying is y'all don't know what you're going to do with that property yet.
So we do have a data center that is proposed right now, roughly 40,000 square feet for a data center. Again, it's in the very early process, so we're still working through it.
Oh, okay. Well, I got some calls because this is actually in my district. And this particular district, I'm just going to be blunt and frank. We got so many people that feel like they can come in this district and just dump what they want to dump. So, and I've got several calls, and even my city council person asked me, what are they doing? You know, and it's kind of hard for me to come here and approve something, and we don't know exactly what's going on. I mean, then when we look up and they be like, well, how did this happen? Well, I came and I voted for something blindly, and I got no idea what they're going to do. That get kind of frustrating and aggravating. We like for people to come and at least give us some kind of idea of what they're planning to do within our communities. And I know you said some kind of data center. Well, a few months or so ago, maybe a year ago, we had some people come say the same thing. And it turned out to be something else outside of a data center. So, you know, they kind of get frustrating when people come and they tell you that. I just wanted to voice that, but it get kind of hard and get kind of frustrating and aggravating.
Sure, and we will submit a development plan and we will follow all of the ordinances put forth by the city. Again, we do have a proposed site layout currently, so we're working through that.
Well, and let me say this. I get an opportunity to vote whether we get this platted or not. But then when you come back and do a development plan, I ain't got no vote. So that kind of put me, you know what I'm saying? So that.
Is it going to be a data center?
Currently, that is the plan.
Would you be willing to approve a queue for a data center?
This is a plat.
This is a plat. Yeah.
This is just requesting the final plat.
And it meets the subdivision regulations.
Yeah, and there's no requirement to specify what they may or may not be using the property for.
Are there any further questions from the Planning Commission and or the audience concerned? Motion's in order.
Move to approve.
Do we have a second? We have a second. All those in favor?
Unanimous.
Thank you.
Number 8, Mike Bunce, representing Westcottville Properties, a public hearing for development plan for new buildings to be located at 2745 Day Street in the M3 district.
My name is Mike Bunce. I live at 2059 South Lincoln Terrace on the west side. Be happy to answer any questions you have.
What you planning to build there? I mean, what exactly? It got new buildings, but what are we planning on putting there?
Things that people need on the west side.
Well, things that people need. First of all, that, and I kind of seen what you presented. That is a real ugly corner right there. That little spot right there, because it goes up that hill. And you put those buildings there, and I dropped off that hill sometime a little faster than what I should. And somebody come out of there, even with whatever kind of, whether you put a clothing store there, or a barber shop there, but when somebody come out of there and go to turn left, and somebody dropping off that hill, that's gonna get a little dangerous. I mean, you really looked at that location of that little area right there? I can't hear you. Try your mic.
Yes, sir. I know about that.
You know about it?
I think there's plenty of visibility.
You think so? I'm not sure about that. And second question I got is, it's a partial building now. You're gonna wipe that out, right? Yeah, it looked like the building, half of it been tore down.
There's no building there now.
No building there now? I could have swore I passed that other day and a piece of that building was still standing.
No, sir.
But if you talk with anybody in the community, because you got several neighborhood associations around now, because I had some calls about it and they were concerned too. And strictly one of them is for safety concerns dropping off that hill right there. I mean, you didn't consider that.
Mr. Dunn.
Yes, ma'am.
So this is a development plan. The zoning is in place. All departments look at this and review it and approve it before it's ever released for any permits. And the zoning is in place.
Okay. Well, I just wanted to make him aware that is a dangerous location and say you're going to put some shops there. I mean, we're going to get somebody killed there. And I just wanted him to kind of consider that when he decided he wanted to do something there. I mean, that's the biggest issue that I got, how dangerous that location is.
Is there anything further from the Planning Commission or the audience? A public hearing's been held. Thank you.
Number 9, Glenn Clark, representing Bangler Property LLC. Public hearing for development plan for a new building to be located at 3411 Kessinger Drive in the PUD district.
Good evening. I'm Glenn Clark, representing Bangler Properties. We propose to do a 10,000 square foot, I'm calling it a cultural grocery market and restaurant on that property. 10,000 square feet with all the landscaping and appropriate parking. It's in a planned unit development. So, should be a nice little project. Any questions?
What does that mean, a groceries?
It's going to specialize in Middle Eastern foods.
Oh, so it's going to be a small, not a large grocery store. It's going to be smaller.
Yeah, a small grocery store.
Okay.
I just call it a market because it sounds better.
Yeah.
Is there any further questions from the Planning Commission? Anything from the audience? A public hearing's been held. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Next item, Robert and Kenya Carroll requesting to rezone 2 lots on the north side of Yaro Street from an R65 residential district to a B2 commercial district.
Good evening. I am Kenya Carroll, 1753 Yaro Street. I think our request came before you to turn the lots that are connected to our residential property from a residential to a commercial zone. And I guess I think you have my letter to kind of explain a little further how it came about, and we are joined with some of our family members and guests and friends and neighbors, surrounding neighbors that are in support. So I guess just to ask if any questions. This is new to us.
Did you have a meeting with the surrounding neighborhood?
We did not have a meeting, but we went to them, and I have the petition from them here with me now. All of them that are surrounding us.
But you didn't have a meeting with them?
No, sir. Most of them came and sit with us and have eaten with us, but no meeting.
If I heard it correctly or read it correctly, the city doesn't have a problem with this. We know it's a commercial area in a residential area, but for what they seem to be doing, the city doesn't have a problem with this if we approve it. Is that what I read correctly?
Yes, sir. You read that correctly.
Okay, thank you.
Her mic is not on.
Hey, Tanya, Leslie's mic's on.
Mike? Okay. He said it's on.
Hello. Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
My question is this property that you want to do the bistro, is it connected to your residence?
It's next door to our residence. It's 2 lots next door. We bought the vacant lot a couple of years ago just for yard space. We didn't know what it was going to be. But when COVID hit, we kind of started using the little empty, and it just turned into, it's outdoor totally. It can only hold about 40 people at any given time. So it's just small outdoor.
Since you're asking to change it to a B2, are you willing to qualify it as only a small outdoor cafe and bistro?
Only?
Yes.
Sure. Yes, that's the only plans we have for it.
Okay.
I have a question. Would it be both? Would it be residential or it'd have to be classified solely as commercial?
You're asking for commercial?
I'm asking.
For commercial?
Just solely commercial? Okay.
Yeah, we're definitely willing to do that.
Are there any further questions from the Planning Commission? Any questions or concerns from the audience? Motion's in order.
Move to approve.
As
qualified as you stated, for a small bistro or cafe,
Outdoor.
whatever your wording.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Yes, sir.
All those in favor?
Unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank y'all.
Number 11, Amanda Lai and Katie Lai, requesting to rezone one lot located at the northwest corner of Atlanta Highway and Wares Ferry Road from a O2 office district to a B2 commercial district.
Good afternoon. My name is DeAndre Rawson. I'm here to represent Amanda, Katie, on our rezoning. Do you have any questions?
You're also asking to rezone it to B2. Are you willing to qualify it as daycare home?
Yes, sir. We're trying to do a daycare.
Are you willing to qualify it though as only a daycare? That's the only thing the space can be. If we grant the rezoning to commercial, it's strictly a daycare only?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. Is there any further questions from the Planning Commission? Questions or concerns from the audience? Motion's in order.
Move to approve with it being qualified only as a daycare.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Unanimous.
Thank y'all.
Number 12, Flowers and White Engineering, representing Thomas Cruz, requesting final approval of North Chase Plat 9 on the south side of North Chase Boulevard in the M1 district.
Good evening. Brad Flowers, Flowers and White Engineering, here to request approval of North Chase Plat number 9. What this is on the eastern end of North Chase Boulevard, and the property is sitting up on North Chase. Right behind it is kind of an L-shaped, a little funky shaped built lot that's back behind it. That was sold to Equipment Share, and they're in the process of constructing their building right now and need some additional space. In order for us to be able to sell that, because it's unplatted property, we're trying to plat this, and after this is platted, it will be legally sold to Equipment Share, and then they will more than likely come back in and replat both lots as one with you at that point in time. We just could not do it as one since it's different owners.
Any questions from the Planning Commission? Any questions, concerns, or comments from the audience? Motion's in order.
Move to approve.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Unanimous.
Thank you.
Number 13, Flowers and White Engineering, representing Montgomery Properties LLC, requesting a rezone property containing 18.54 acres on the southwest corner of Pike Road and Wraithorrington Road from an Ag 1 residential agriculture district to a B2Q commercial qualified district.
Again, Brad Flowers, Flowers and White. What we've got in front of you today is the southwest corner of Pike Road and Wraithorrington Road. There's approximately 18.5 acres there currently that is pasture land. And what we're requesting to do is take that from an Ag 1 to a B2 with qualifications. And in your packet, I believe it should spell out all the qualifications. I'd be more than happy to read those for you, but we have qualified that B2 to include no nightclubs or bars, no adult video stores, no tattoo parlors, no gas stations or convenience stores, no auto repair shops, no auto sales, and no standalone fast food restaurants. The concept plan that you see before you, the general goal of this is to try to work with, similar to the Pike Road standards, where you encapsulate all of the parking inside of the development, create buildings around the perimeter that give you a facade as you're going down the street of things that would look in similar keeping to the general area. And so what we've done for the property is more of a general business and retail. We've got a couple buildings up on the corner, one of them being a restaurant that currently has interest. We've got a secondary restaurant below that and then some retail around. Now, please understand, this is conceptual. This is what we would like to see happen at this point in time. However, being an 18-acre parcel, we do not have tenants for every space that is possible in this area. So therefore, if someone comes forward, there's a possibility that could change slightly, but that is the general concept that we have and are committed to at this time. So ask if y'all have any questions. More than happy to answer that. And we did meet with the HOAs up and down around the Raythornton area last Thursday night. Mr. Reed was so gracious as to attend to moderate that for us as well. And I tried my best to answer every question they had. Obviously, when you have neighbors coming from the general area, you're not going to answer everything, but we did our best to answer everything in an honest and straightforward manner. Any questions from y'all?
When you said that could change slightly, what exactly does that mean?
So if we get a secondary restaurant or a third restaurant where I have if you look on the east side of the property, I have restaurant 1 in the upper corner and restaurant 2 below it. If somebody comes in and says, hey, I need a bigger restaurant, I need a bigger footprint, I would like to have a retail there, or the restaurant wants to go to the south end, things of that nature, just the general concept could change slightly right before we get into the final development, but we don't know that. If this were a half-acre parcel, I can tell you exactly what it's going to look like. We got one building, we got parking, here's exactly how it sits. When you have multi-tenant uses, you come in with your best foot forward, you delay it out as you see fit, but there are obviously possibilities for things that change. You get into large developments all the time where they come in with a site plan, and due to the dictation of who comes in, those things change slightly. But right now, that is the concept that we have and that we're bringing forward.
Wasn't there brought up at the meeting a couple of other qualifications? I think.
There never was a modification or a full acceptance of those. We were going to wait till tonight and see exactly what it was that they brought up tonight. But there were some modifications or qualifications, and I would, if you don't mind, request that they ask for those, and then I will approve with my owner, who's here tonight, which ones we are willing to throw on top of that.
Normally we do something like this. We get a qualification, not a list of items that you're not willing to do. Do you have that list?
Yes, sir. It's in your packet. We have qualified the things out that we do not want to do there, and those we have supplied those. Now, I'm sure the residents around will come with different qualifications, and at that time, whatever they are, we will deliberate quickly and come back to you with an answer on the ones that they provide.
Any further questions?
Excuse me, I'm sorry, I cut
Yes,
somebody off.
Nope.
The qualifications that you see there are the exact same qualifications with an inclusion of one additional that have gone up and down Raythornton Road for any of the developments that have been qualified through that area.
Any questions, concerns from the audience? Name and address, please, sir.
Good evening. My name is Steve Meany. I'm a resident of Avalon. My address is 3300 Lancelot Court in Montgomery. Yes, Mr. Flowers was very generous with this time the other night, and we appreciate that very much. Same with Mr. Reed. We're opposed to this. Pike Road, as you all well know, is a beautiful area out there, and this is in the city of Montgomery, right on the very outer edge of that area. I represent the Avalon neighborhood along with our HOA president, Mr. Lee Ishman, and we also have the HOA president of Breckenridge with us as well, Mr. Mike Gaston. And we're all opposed to this. There's several reasons. One, when you go back to the Envision 2040 plan with the city of Montgomery, this is recommended, areas like this are recommended to be a green space. There's several problems with this. If any of you have been out in that area, you know it's a big flat plain. It's absolutely gorgeous. And that's the problem, is that it is a big flat plain, and we have something out there called prairie soil. those of you that have never enjoyed the pleasure of walking or working in prairie soil in January and February, you'll know what I'm talking about here. But prairie soil, when it gets wet, right, it stays wet for a very long period of time, and it doesn't absorb any more water. It lets that water go to other places. And all of the water that you see of these 18.5 acres of mostly asphalt and rooftop, it's got to go somewhere. Okay, that pond that's immediately behind it is the old Wilson property pond that you can see on that plat. That pond, not more than about 3.5, 4 months ago, flooded out onto Raythornton Road already. The rest of that water goes back behind the Wilson property and comes into the Avalon neighborhood. My street has flooded twice in the last 2 years, and I've heard several times that's the city council's problem and the city's problem. I get it. But you're just exacerbating the problem by passing something like this. So please, let's pay attention to those types of things when the residents are telling you it's going to be a problem, and the city clearly doesn't have the money to do it. So let's make that acknowledgement right now that we need to be very aware that once they do this, there's going to be a lot of water coming off of this. Second thing is, because there are no storm drains in the area. Second of all, there's no sanitary sewage. So what are they going to do here, right? Those pretty little ponds back there, they're not going to exist. You got to have somewhere to run your septic. Field lines take up a lot of space. So those retaining ponds, they're either going to have to shrink this property down incredibly and this development incredibly, right? We live in Avalon on 1.6 acre lots for a reason, because we don't have sewer, sanitary sewer either. Field lines take up roughly a half to an acre of our property on every one of our lots. So now you add in that many rooftops and that much asphalt, where are you going to put those field lines? So this pretty little drawing right here ain't going to be what's going to come about, okay? We need to really pay attention to that Envision 2040 plan and listen to what it says and start leaving these areas alone. And it's an ecological, beautiful piece of property that we need to leave alone and let it be this way. I'm going to yield the rest of my time to Mr. Ishman and allow him to speak and bring up a couple more points at this time.
Good evening. I'm Lee Ishman, 2224 Lancelot Drive. I'm the Avalon HOA president. Our biggest concern is that when you invest in an area that he has his picture on the corner of Raythornton, which is on the outskirts of Alabama, excuse me, it's the city of Montgomery, the outskirts. We already know what crime is like in the city. I don't want to open that up, but anyway, just if you get a 911 call in this area on the outskirts of the city, how long do we think that's going to take for MPD or whoever to get there? They're already behind on making calls now. Also, he did mention what shops he's not going to open, but we know shopping centers all around the city right now, most of them are empty. So if you have empty shops in this area right here, in the area where after 8 o'clock, people are going home. When we decide to move in this area, invest our hard-earned money in this area, because we were leaving restaurants, gas stations, drug stores, which we have on the corner, but we were leaving shopping centers. We knew we were leaving those things because we wanted to move away, to invest money and to have great resale one day if we decide to sell. But if they keep bringing in these different developments, they're going to push us somewhere we can't go anywhere else. Montgomery is running out of good property. And they're taking up some prime property to put a shopping center on that one day we're not even sure if all the stores going to even be taken up. Yeah, he did say something about restaurants and things like that. It's hard to keep a restaurant open here already. There's not enough people out there to probably go keep this open if you open it up. So just think about that. We're coming here at the mercy of you all to protect what we have invested in so that we can continue to have great resale one day, safe environment, because right now they're racing up and down Raythornton. We're racing up and down Raythornton. We get complaints about that all the time. You open up a shopping center like this, more traffic, more crime. So we asking you all to just say no. Make sure if any shops are open, if this ever come to fruition, we make sure that whatever shop they want to bring in is approved by you all, our neighborhood, to make sure something that we want, not what they want. So thank you for your time, and I hope you will this down.
My name is Mike Gaston. I am the Vice President of the Homeowners Association for the Breckenridge neighborhood. I live at 9056 Milliken Trail. We just wanted to reiterate what Mr. Meany said in regards to all the drainage issues. Our neighborhood is the closest large development of 277 homes, and we're approximately over just 1 mile from the location of this facility. While there are probably some positive things that can come out of this, at the time that we speak right now, our neighborhood can't stand one more bit of overage or drainage due to any type of water that can succeed the existing land that we now hold. We have some engineering aspects of our own within our neighborhood, wetlands that were deemed approximately 5 years ago behind the back of our property that we were going to build out on that are no longer available to us. And if this continues and with the drainage problems, the events of just the rains from 3 years ago, what we might see tonight, the flooding we presently have at every rain event, due to the overages of where this water ends up in Jenkins Creek and where they go to all the other retaining ponds in the neighborhood, we believe at this time that this project should not be funded and move forward. Thank you.
Good evening. Barry White, 2221 Ray Thornton Road. I know you don't enjoy hearing about traffic, but this area was scheduled for a school. And at that time, they said that the traffic was unbearable and that the school should not be built there. Reading room did that for us. Also, there is no benefit to this. There is none. Everything you see there is 2 miles away. They can go 2 miles in either direction and get exactly what is there. Right now, there are 238 properties vacant, 6 million square feet. They can go anywhere they want, but they shouldn't go there. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Aya Saeed. I'm with the Deer Creek HOA. I'm the executive director over there. The Deer Creek HOA is actually the largest HOA on Ray Thornton Road. We have 2 exits from our neighborhood that come out onto Ray Thornton Road. We are 1,668 homes currently with lots for 24 more. The congestion on it is ridiculous, and the Deer Creek HOA was not aware of a meeting last Thursday, so our residents did not have a chance to be made aware of this development or to come out and ask questions of the developers. So we are definitely opposed to this. The other thing we'd like to reiterate what they said is we had a major drainage flood event on August 2nd, 2 years ago, and it affected 68 homes in our neighborhood, and I don't know how many in Breckenridge. And when the city of Montgomery came out and did a study out there, they said that the drainage ponds, retention ponds, all of that on Ray Thornton Road were not adequate to accommodate the number of homes, the schools, and the continued building on that area. So we ask that you all vote against this and give us a chance to at least sit down with them to see how, because I worry that those 2 ponds will not be there and that they will not address the issues of flooding and damage. The other thing is all the residents on that street bought their homes and invested a lot of money into those homes, and we'd like to keep those property values up. And to reiterate again, Montgomery Police Department cannot and has a very hard time reaching the outer skirts of that area. So to add additional congestion in the mornings with the schools for something that they can find just a few minutes down the road is just impractical and unreasonable. Thank you.
Mr. President, Commissioners, I'm Willie Durham, 3224 East Avalon. We've been here since 5 o'clock, so everybody was not able to stay, but I just want to ask those that are against this project in the audience, would you please stand? Yeah. Everyone won't have an opportunity to address you, but I do want you to see that there are a lot of residents that are not in favor of this project. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we've got time for one more.
Marty Clark, 2211 Ray Thornton. The main thing I want to talk about is traffic. Someone mentioned racing on Ray Thornton. I don't know if there's necessarily racing, but there definitely is very fast traffic. Quite a bit of traffic that's completely disrespectful to traffic laws. People seem to think the left turn lane is a passing lane, and it's not. We hardly ever see City of Montgomery police on our end of Ray Thornton Road. As far as the left turn lane goes, there need to be some periodic barriers or something to physically prevent people from doing what they're doing. We used to live in Thornton Trace, and on many occasions I saw people causing very dangerous situations where somebody could have easily been killed or seriously injured because of the left turn lane issues. Another concern I see here is with the potential for people to cut through this development from Ray Thornton to Pike Road. And I'd like to see the plan account for that likelihood and make it very difficult for people to cut through, make it unattractive for people to cut through because they won't save any time. And another concern I have is how the City of Montgomery is responsible for Ray Thornton Road, but not for Pike Road. Is that correct?
So Pike Road is not a city road.
Right, okay.
But
So,
Ray Thornton is.
okay, so if this development is approved, how will the fact that the city only controls Ray Thornton be accounted for with the traffic plan? But, the concern is the fact that the city of Montgomery...
Microphone, please, sir.
Yeah. The city of Montgomery controls Ray Thornton, but does not control Pike Road. So how will that be addressed in the traffic plan? So will we go before Pike Road also? No. Okay. All right. Just one more comment about traffic. I see a lot of commercial developments set up for one-way entrances and one-way exits, but the entrances and exits are still left. They're designed where it's still possible for people to go the wrong way, and that sets up a lot of dangerous situations. So if we have any one-way entrances and exits, I'd love to see it designed such that it's physically impossible to do what you're not supposed to do. That's the end of my comments.
Anything further from the Planning Commission?
Yes, Mr. White, Brad.
Yes, sir.
You know, we had a meeting, and you left, and we discussed some things. And it's not that the neighbors or the community is resisting expansion and progress for the city of Montgomery. That's not the issue. It's just that they are not for this project at this time. They understand that the city is going to expand and things progress and stuff. But the gist that I got was they just don't want this project at this time. Do you understand that?
I understand. All due respect, though, to answer some of those questions, because my owner would like to see the rezoning, whether the project actually happens tomorrow or if it happens 5 years down the road, he would like to pursue the rezoning. So if I may, going back to some of the comments that were addressed, discussion about water. The design would obviously have to be implemented to create a pre-post, which Patrick has alluded to tonight, to y'all and expressed as a third party that would review all of that, and that goes well and above what has been done in the past. When Deer Creek was developed, when Breckenridge was developed, when Thornton Trace was developed originally, those same standards were not there. We're well in excess of that. Everything that we do has to hold the 100-year plus 1 foot of freeboard on every single pond. How many times do we get the 100-year? Well, it could be 6 times a year. You don't know. We go years where we don't get a 100-year rain event. But just throwing that out there, we have to meet the design calculations that are set forth by the city of Montgomery, so that would be handled. And if we cannot handle that, that would deter the project moving forward. But until we go to that step, we do not know. Sewer. The overall plan for sewer, there's an outfall line that is being installed now from the back side of the outer loop, running down near the outer loop right away, all the way down to Wallahatchie Road to be able to service the new high school for Pike Road. To be able to get into that gravity main, we would have to, or it's actually a force main, to be able to get into that, we would have to work through the Hudson property, which already has a PUD set up for all of the houses that are there, directly across the intersection at Ray-Thornton Road and Pike Road. In their PUD is a town center, a multi-use town center that includes also commercial and residential townhouses in that one zone, along with multitude of houses beyond that. So asking for a B2 is not outside of the question when that has already been approved in that area. The sewer for this time, until that becomes available, we have done calculations for that to run roughly 10,000 gallons per day. Sanitary sewer would take approximately 7 acres. The intention of that would be, if that comes and if this development happens before sewer is available to be reached on the Hudson property, we would probably develop this in stages and work that mound out on the west between those ponds, which we do have plenty of room to do. So we do have room to do the sanitary sewer right there. We could feed several different businesses and restaurants as well. To handle the traffic control out in Pike Road, the traffic at Pike Road, I personally, as a civil engineer, do not like, as we refer to them sometimes, suicide lanes, which is what Ray-Thornton has. It's got a wide third lane all the way down from one end to the other with arrows across it. I much prefer seeing those as dedicated turn lanes where needed. I understand they move traffic fast. They have the availability. The problem is you have people that take advantage of that and they run fast. Now that is a detriment that is on Ray-Thornton Road that does not have an impact on this strictly this development. That is something that is already there, that is the city of Montgomery. This development has been already passed through to the county engineer, Montgomery County, for Pike Road, and looked at from access standpoint. The discussion about the access on the Pike Road would have to be approved through the Montgomery County Engineering Department, Kevin Boone. We have well over 600 feet, if I remember right, it's about 850 feet from the intersection back, which would allow us the ability to do a left and a right turn lane off Pike Road. And we're far enough back from Pike Road on Ray-Thornton Road that we could also do turn lanes into the development from that side. We have covered every base that I can possibly cover, other than the fact that the residents don't want it. So I have to leave it in your hands. I've covered all the technical aspects that I can possibly cover. If you have any other questions, I'm open book.
Anything further from the Planning Commission? Motion's in order.
I move to deny.
Need to give a reason.
We've got 200 people here or 100 left or whatever, and I don't think they want it. I'm going with the
I think one is
with the reason that, you know, if you want a specific reason, I think that there is not support for that, for this project in that area.
Okay. One of the other reasons is a safety issue with the crime issue. somebody mentioned the response time is all the way at the end of the city, and they were afraid of that time delay. One of the major concerns, put it that way.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Reginald, second.
Okay.
All those in favor of denying?
5.
All those opposed?
Mr. Dunn?
I'm abstaining.
Abstained? Okay. Motion passes.
Can y'all clarify can you clarify your reason? You said safety.
Crime.
Are you talking about safety?
I believe
related
Mr. Reed
to
said crime, safety.
crime, safety,
/safety.
traffic?
Traffic as well.
Okay.
Tanya, I believe we're looping back to number 1 now.
Yes, sir. They're all ones. Yeah.
We're not finished yet.
Royal, Mr. Bostick.
Could y'all exit quietly so we can finish our meeting? Thank you.
All right, what's the verdict?
I would just like to put on the record, Commissioner Smith, I appreciate them giving us the opportunity to talk to them, the homeowners, and appreciate the discourse.
You have to get closer to the mic. We can't hear you. I mean, him. Could you repeat that in the mic?
I said I appreciate you giving us the opportunity to meet and discuss that with the homeowners. Thank you.
Mr. Dean.
If I may, thank you very much for asking us to talk and meet, and we did talk and meet, and we voted, and it was almost unanimous, all but one. If you're going to defer to us and let us make a recommendation, we'd like you to vote to deny this plat for the 4 reasons we mentioned earlier. There's no traffic study, and that's required. There was no notice to Bill Barranco, who owns that strip of land, the drainage and/or possible flooding. And lastly, something we hardly ever talk about, it could always be presented in another month or 2. Once all the homeowners have met, which we didn't have tonight, once we've had a chance to talk further with them, that'll be their choice. We're not asking them to re-present it, but we'd like it denied because the due process wasn't met, and because the criteria is not met, and because the city engineer, traffic engineer has said, we need a traffic study and we don't have that. So when you give us the choice, Mr. Reed, of 244 lots or 206 lots, we'd rather the 244, as crazy as that sounds, because that was approved lawfully, legally, through all the criteria, even though some of the underlying criteria I don't think were accurate, but it happened. That's just what happened. Tonight is a new plat, it's a new story. They haven't done what the regulations require, and we'd like you to vote it down with a motion and a second, and then put these reasons on the record so that it will be upheld if they appeal. But I don't think they'll appeal. They'll either come back again with another plat, or they'll build the 244 lots, and you won't have to hear from us again. But at least it'll be something that was done properly and legally. So that's our request.
Right. Mr. Bostick, Mr. Dumas, how we go?
Yeah, we're not going to ask for an extension. I would say that obviously that many of the people who were here today were people who were predisposed against our plat, so obviously we would take in consideration that many homeowners weren't here.
I would like to just state real quick that although this design is a large enough change to require a new overall, it was followed in the spirit of the approved design from 2021 and made in what was my opinion as the engineer improvements, and the owner agreed to let me make them. We tried to offer them a better neighborhood in the end, and if the people that show up are generally people that are discontent. I think if more people had shown up that were actually willing to listen and kind of look at this from an overall perspective, they would agree in the end that this is the better result, but we can't make them choose the better path. So I appreciate your time and thank you for your patience in working with us and giving us an opportunity to talk to them and hold it to the end. Thank you.
All right, motion's in order?
Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Yes, sir.
Robert, you said we can require a traffic study for this, correct?
Yes, that's what the consensus was.
Yes, sir. So if you deem it appropriate, yeah, the planning commission can require a traffic study.
But if I may, and I would defer to Rand Neely's, who's the city attorney's comments, but under the state regulation, under the state statute, which I have here tonight, if you want a copy or you want me to read it to you, when it's first presented, 30 days later it becomes approved by law if you don't vote it down and state your reasons on the record. So unless, and by the way, I've gotten conflicting information, and I'd love for you folks to talk to Wesley Cox, who told me he thinks they're doing a traffic study, and the engineer, Mr. Bostick, said he thought they're doing a traffic study, and Mr. Dumas tells me tonight, no, we're not. That's off the board. So for you to say we're going to require a traffic study, and it is in your right to do it, and the regs say you can do it, but if you postpone this vote 30 days from now, this plat becomes official. So all I'm asking is deny the plat. If they want to get a traffic study and come back with another plat, they can do it. But as they have artfully told y'all, they got away with it the first time not having to do one, and they got the plat approved through the Supreme Court. So if they don't want to do one, they don't have to do one. If they want to do one, they can do one. That's all I'm saying. So I just hate to get out of here tonight without a vote and all these reasons on the record, because otherwise it's going to get approved and there will not be a traffic study. Even though y'all may say we want a traffic study, if they don't do one and 30 days from tonight passes, this plat is approved by law. And I think Mr. Dumas would agree with that. So,
Richard, I want to make sure that we understand that I want to make sure that we understand your people that you met with, that supported you and you're the spokesperson, want the 244.
Yes, sir. That's what he said, Mr. Cook.
That's what you've said, and that's what you agree, even though you know it's more homes. That's what you want. That's what you want us to vote for.
yes, sir. And Mr. Cook, let me say this. I want to be clear on the record because we're being recorded and this may end up in circuit court, but I doubt it. Mr. Dumas has told me they're not going to appeal this. We don't really want 244 houses versus 206. I mean, after all we went through 3 years ago, you know we don't want more traffic. You know that.
I understand that.
But based on what choices we have right now, we think it's more advantageous to go with the 244 lots because I think there's a lot of other problems. You know, I looked at the city website during our break, and there's been some changes with ponds, and the city's actually got stuff published on its website that was different than 3 years ago. So it may be that they still have to present another plat. It may be that the pond that's on that diagram from 2021 is not sufficient. But if it is, to answer your question, we're taking a chance that we would rather have the 244 lots instead of 206 because we don't want this current plat approved. Yes, sir. And we all these folks are sitting here now. They'll raise their hand if you want them to, but they're all waiting around to see what happens because they're the ones out there that voted.
Okay.
I think we've danced around it enough. Motion's in order.
I make a motion to deny. Reason being, no traffic study. And I'd like to see, I think also due to the flooding and all that stuff out in that community, I'd like to see a hydrological study done. Also safety issue, because it's going to be a safety issue regardless.
Is there a second to deny?
Second.
All those in favor of deny?
2,
All those opposed?
3, 4?
No, I abstain.
Okay, so 2 to 3 and 1 abstention, the motion fails.
All right. Thank y'all. Meeting is adjourned.